Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Bum ba 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 bum bum ba da bum 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 ba da bum ba da bum 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 bum. Hey, good evening to you, Eric. John goes over Hassan every time. Glad to hear it. Hassan Piker. Honestly, the truth, Cotton, is that Hassan's on like all the time. He's like Fox News at this point. Like he's like one of these like corporate media outlets where he's like on all the fucking time. So like it can't all be good. Right? Like I just feel like you can't watch like 24 hours of this guy all of the time, right? You gotta get a little variety in your diet, for God's sakes. I don't really have anything against Hassan. Like I think that my only critique for him is like, hey bud, how about you take some of that money and like, I don't know, do something with it, you know? Like just besides buying a big house, how about you just do something with all that money that you've got? Huh? Hassan is great. It's just I'd rather hear from John in general. Well, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Eat it, Hassan Piker. That's it. We're throwing the gauntlet down. I am better than Hassan Piker in every way, and no one can tell me otherwise. Ha 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 ha. So let's start with the. Yeah, he says he live streams 7 days, 12-hour streams. Like, I mean, he does. Like even if that's an enormous exaggeration, he's streaming all the time. He's constantly streaming. Like, to the point where I'm like, are you okay, bro? Like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? Do you need like a big hug? Do you need a little love? Do you need a hug in your life? Because it seems like you might. Seems like you might. Right? Like that's a lot. That's a lot. It's a lot to stream as often as he does. But I mean, proof's in the pudding. He's successful, right? It worked. I mean, I would like to increase the amount that I stream, but I gotta work this capitalist job. Man. It's as simple as that. Hey, Bread Bunny, how are you doing today? Good to see you. Oh, geez, I completely reneged. On actually setting up my mic properly. Oh my god. What a huge loser I am. See, I'm a professional. We here at the Canadian Commie are goddamn professionals. And how dare you accuse me of anything else for not having my microphone ready and not being prepared to actually stream. Also, people critique him where they argue that he needs to spend his money wisely because he can't handle any amount of critique. I mean... Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Oh, Aaron, I was thinking about you over the weekend because I know that you and I disagree about the Ukraine thing. John Mearsheimer. John Mearsheimer. He's the guy. Find that guy. That's the guy to find out on YouTube. He's the guy I should have been telling you about before. Because more than anything else, I respect... academics, like actual academic rigor and actual academic work. Like we can talk about pundits and we can talk about corporate pundits and all this kind of stuff all we want. But at the end of the day, like a real academic source who's doing like rigorous academic work is definitely somebody to look into, and that's John Mearsheimer. I mean, I could even go the extra step. John Mearsheimer. Yeah, here he is. John Mearsheimer. You're going to find a lot of his stuff on YouTube. He just recently, and by recently, like literally May 22nd, right? But like he's done interviews and things like this. And he's very, 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 very rigorous. Yeah, fantastic. So you know all about him. Wonderful. I just wanted to drop that before moving on. And before I forget again, have you researched MH17 was actually a big event? No, I don't know anything about it.
Bread Bunny asks, I have a question. What was with the big blow up about the coffin homes in Hong Kong and Japan that happened in 2017? And has China done or said anything about that? I mean, we're heading there. Like, the coffin homes? Are you kidding me? So, I mean, for me, like, what's going on with here, let's just throw this up, right? Toronto's housing market so expensive, families earning $100,000 now eligible for Habitat for Humanity help, right? Like we are actually like destroying our housing market here, and we seem to be giggling about it, right? We seem to be just like, absolutely, let's just completely destroy our housing market, and things, and it's the same story every single time, right? It's that you privatize and create a housing market, you commodify your housing, right? You create housing as a commodity, and as soon as you create housing as a commodity, right, what happens? The people who have the properties, who hoard the properties, continuously jack the price of those properties. So it doesn't take a brilliant mind to figure this out, right? Like it's just that it's never discussed. It's never actually talked about. And there's constantly excuses made and constantly counter narratives put in the corporate media, and there's constantly alternative views that are put forward in order to obfuscate what is obviously the truth. Smaller and smaller groups of people hoard larger and larger housing and then jack that pricing. And they don't want to do things to lower the value of the housing, right? That what happens if we build a bunch of houses? Right? What happens if we build a bunch of houses? Well, that lowers the value of their current asset. So why would they want that? Right? And it also means that for them to maintain the value of their asset, they would have to buy more assets. So why? Like why? Right? It's like literally like, remember the movie Dr. No, the James Bond movie? Well, what was not Dr. No, Goldfinger. The movie Goldfinger, right? James Bond film. Goldfinger's whole plan was to get into Fort Knox and then irradiate all the gold, thereby increasing the value of his gold supply. Because so he would become like a multi-billionaire overnight, because he would have access to all this gold and then irradiate all the gold in Fort Knox, right? It's like shrewdly economic, right? Like it has this economic brilliance about it. And it's the same thing that they're doing in the housing market. They're just making sure that no new assets are made and that they own all the assets. So they're just like screaming it all upwards, and and it's exactly what's happened in places like Japan, right? And it is what is going to happen here. Like I'm actually this close. Here's a bit of good news for you guys, right? For anyone out there who cares about John from a financial perspective, right? If you're sitting there being like, oh my God, John, like me, is probably on the edge of destitution, and I am, well, I might be getting a roommate. That I have finally found somebody. Like, my whole shtick was that I didn't want to just get some rando, right? I don't want to just, like, put an ad on the internet. And so somebody around me, and I won't get into specifics, but they have said they're looking for a roommate. I've pitched my space at them, and they are poised. They're going to come take a look at the place, and then they might actually move in, and that would have my rent, right? And the reason why this situation is appealing to them is because I can offer them a rent that is significantly lower. Like if they were to get into a roommate situation in a 2-bedroom, right? They would be paying $1,500 on average. They'd be paying $1,500 on average, right? If they were in a 2-bedroom situation. I happen to have a situation where I can like create 2 bedrooms, like 2 bachelor suites, basically, is what I would be creating. They'd be like 2 kind of smaller bachelor suites. That's the whole idea. But because the price point is so low comparatively, like, I remember paying, like, I have moved into places, I remember I moved into a 2-bedroom. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment here in Toronto, and I was spending $850 a month in a 2-bedroom. Like, that existed. That was real. When I first moved to Toronto, that's what I was doing. And what's happening now is disgraceful. It's disgusting what's happening now. And it's going to get worse because the people who own this place are rapacious, crazed psychos, right? They're not going to respond rationally because all they care about is money go up, number go up, money number go up. What do we need to do to make money number go up? Oh, it make hundreds and thousands of people live in destitution, and then another thousands and thousands a group of people, right? Make another group of people just live in on the edge of destitution, right? Like this is what they're willing to do, and they don't care. They're completely disinterested. That literally their advice to people who are. Literally, their advice to people who are in destitution or living on the edge of destitution is just get a better job and work harder. That's all they're willing to say to these people. Like it's psychopath behavior, right? And it's exactly what's happened in Japan. It's exactly what happened in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong people are better off for being taken over by China because the Chinese are steadily going to resolve these issues, right? Because they don't believe in the commodification of housing, right? Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. I know, I'm talking. This guy. Hail Tosis, good to see you. Hail Tosis on Twitch. Good to see you, bud. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, guys. Hit the bells, hit the whistles, do all the stuff. Tell people I exist. Send it around. Aaron writes, I think the problem with Mearsheimer is that he doesn't know anything about the actual war. He just has theory. He just has a theory, realism, that for sure not worked out in this war. So it has no predictive power. I mean, what do you mean it hasn't worked out in this war? Like, it seems pretty straightforward what's going on. But, I mean, once you stop buying into corporate sources, right? Like, once you stop believing what professional liars lie to you about, and you start understanding that their job is to lie you into spending money on a war that's not working, like they've always done, right? Like, I just feel like I think the thing is that I've gone through too many wars with these guys. Like, I've gone through the Iraq War. Like, I've gone through this stuff, and it's the same, right? It's the same. That they say the same stuff, they do the same stuff, they speak the same way, and they act the same way. It's just now it's happening in a country full of white people instead of a country full of brown people. And it's like the same thing. And so it's like, yeah, this is their plan. This is what they're going to do. That eventually the thing peters out, and they leave. Or they take whatever, they privatize whatever they can, right? Protect it with private military forces. Like there's no, but to believe that like we're gonna win this thing and the war is going great and all this, it's like okay, but when has that ever been true? Like when has that ever actually been true? It wasn't true in Iraq. It wasn't true in Afghanistan. It wasn't true in Syria. It wasn't true all across Africa. It wasn't true in Latin America. It wasn't true in Southeast Asia. It wasn't true in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. Like, when has it ever been true? Like, the only time the Americans have actually been like, we're pushing in and we're winning and we're going to win this thing was like World War II when the Soviets did all the work. Like, when have the Americans actually said something across their media sphere and had it actually been work? This war is different. No, it's not. Like, it's different insofar as the Americans have actually stepped on the toes of a superpower. Like, that makes it different. But in terms of the relationship between America's corporate media and its intelligence networks and you, it's no different. Like, they're telling you the same story. It's the same bullshit. It's the same lies. It's not different. Like, they want you to continue paying taxes to fund a war that they are losing. Like always. Like always. Like, America doesn't win wars. America siphons money away from you to pay for wars. That's what it does. Like this is the thing I find so confusing. Is that, like, people, and it's not just you, but people seem invested in, like, we're going to win this thing. Your government and your society has never once ever actually been interested in winning any of these wars. That's not the point. It's completely not the point. Like, it's utterly beside the point for them. The point is to siphon money away from your wallet to get you to continue paying taxes so that they can take that money for themselves. That's the entire point. that this whole thing is a sales pitch. That's all it is. And yet Conton's nailing it. Literally, every war has been quote unquote different this time. Yeah. Like, it's always different this time. And then it's the same. It's the same story every single time. We're going to pitch this narrative to you. No, that's a joke. America isn't fighting this war. Ukraine is. What a joke. Like, what a total joke. Who's funding it? Where are they getting all their weapons from? Biden literally sent, like, what, $60 billion? What a fucking total joke. Yeah, obviously America is fighting that war. Like, America's certainly funding the war. Like, maybe it's Ukrainians that are dying, right? Like, what are you talking about? You're the one paying for that war, my man. You are the one paying for that war. Like, your government is sending, like, missiles, tanks, aircraft, artillery shells, ammunition. What, you think all that's free? Like, you think that's free? And again, it's the same fucking story. It was the same all across Iraq, Afghanistan. Like, it's very, like, you are the one who is confused, my man. You are the one that is confused. Like, you seem to be perfectly fine paying for a war that your country is going to lose, because it's what it always does, right? Based on a narrative that is obviously false, because that's what it does, and it always has. It's never told you the truth about any of these wars, ever. The result has never been the way that they have said it has been, ever, in the history of your life, certainly. And I just, it's weird. It's weird watching a guy basically just be like, corporate media that always lies to me says that this is true. It's weird. Like, it's weird watching it happen. Like, I'm glad you're here, bud, and I'm glad you're still listening to me talk to you, but, like, it's odd watching somebody, like, bought in to a system that is designed to be fraudulent and lie to you. Like, it's designed to be that way. It's just wild. But you're a nice guy, and you're being nice to me about it, so I'm glad you're here. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe. Do all the stuff. Tell people I exist. All right, Eric, what are you talking about? Before I forget again, MH said, the long story short, passenger airline was shot down over Donbass. From day one, the West has been doing a witch hunt, trying to blame Russia for the airliner to be shut down. They refused to have an investigator from the Donbass, but used Ukrainian representatives. On top of that, the airspace was never shut down, even though middle of a civil war. Honestly, dude, I got to tell you, like, these sorts of stories are the kinds of stories that you're never going to find a resolution to. Like, really, you're just never going to find a resolution to it. It'll be the kind of thing that, like, there'll be one person somewhere who does, like, a big expose on it, like, well after the fact. And it might get turned into, like, a true crime episode or something like that. But it's just, like, yeah. The reason it is important, honestly, it can't be that important, mate. Like, I've never heard about it. Like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm sure that the people, like, this, and it won't matter. It's such a small shred of what's going on the larger scale of things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be mean to you, but it's just like, I feel like we're always getting hyper focused on smaller things, and there's like these big, large scale kind of things. I don't even have any like Ukrainian news. Here, I'll put up some of the Nigerian stuff, right? Because it looks like the news cycle is moving to Nigeria now. Like, nobody cares about Ukraine anymore. Like, this is how this whole thing's going to resolve. Like, the Ukrainian crisis, the Ukrainian war, whatever you want to call it, the Donbass war, is going to resolve in, like, 5 or 10 years. They'll just be like, war over, right? They'll stop sending troops or stop sending money. And then the whole thing will just stop. And they'll just end it, right? And it'll be exactly like Afghanistan. They'll just pull out, right? They'll just pull out. That's it. And then, like, something will happen, like happened in Afghanistan where the Taliban took over, right? Like, some group will take over, and everybody will just be like, okay, well, what are you gonna do? You know, and they'll just move on. And the populace basically, like they did with Afghanistan, will just kind of shrug and just be like, okay, you know, well, whatever. Because all of the rah-rah and all of the, like, crazy camaraderie and all the, like, waving of the yellow and blue flags and all the, like, America, we're going in there to fight freedom, kill Osama. We're gonna kill Osama bin Laden. We're gonna go in there and do all this kind of stuff. All of that will have dissipated, right? And everybody else will be distracted by, like, Miley Cyrus Jr. shaking her butt at the Super Bowl or whatever, and it'll be like Donald Trump Jr. will be like, today we're pulling out of Ukraine because we feel like we've accomplished all our missions there. Victory for America, right? And that's exactly what they'll do. They'll declare victory, mission accomplished, even though Russia will still own all that territory, and then they'll just end it, and no one will care. No one will care. It'll be guys like me being like, hey, everything I said about that was completely correct. And no one will give a shit about that either. Like, no one will care. Right? That's how this whole thing is going to end. Because Americans have the attention span of a goldfish. They remember nothing. And America banks on that. Like, the American ruling class banks on that. Fiddleford writes, good to see you, by the way, Fiddleford. Chiefs Conference is being covered with Nan and Matawa. I would suggest you check it out. Oh, is it the, I don't actually know about this, mate, but it's like the First Nations people coming together. Here, I think I need something to search. Here, yeah, Fiddleford, could you just give me something to search? I will look that up for sure, but I don't want to fish around for it. Skill issue. Just get good. Thanks, looking to Z. Yeah. After Iran, Iraq, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Cambodia. Yeah. Why is the story on this war the truth? Yeah. Well, we got to kind of. It looks like there's an argument brewing. America isn't fighting this war. Yeah. John, some of these guys are outright jingoists going mask off. We'll see. Sent the money which Ukrainians used to buy weapons from the imperialist manufacturing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I started it, Anemone. I shouldn't have. You're right. You're right. No. If this is the tact that Aaron, dude, if you're gonna do this tact, then we're done. Like you're being purposefully obtuse and stupid on purpose. Like it's a good opportunity to actually talk about that, because this is something I see a lot. Like people are being stupid on purpose because they have to be stupid on purpose. Right? You can't be. You can't actually go, oh yeah, a good point. You can't actually say, oh, you can't actually hear, right? You can't actually listen, because if you actually listen and you actually hear and you actually contemplate and you actually consider and you actually be intellectual and you actually accept evidence and rigor on purpose, right? If that's your goal, is to be intelligent. Then you've got to actually hear and listen and have your position challenged, and when evidence is presented, you actually have to allow that to challenge your position, right? What is the most common response when good argumentation or good evidence is put forward is intentional stupidity. It's an intentional obtuseness that comes from a place of total stubbornness. Because it's all that remains. You can actually see this a lot. Somebody like Jordan Peterson is a master of it, right? Being intentionally stupid and intentionally obtuse, and you see this happen a lot to communists when they actually end up debating communists. When people are actually put up against communists in media, which doesn't happen that often. And it doesn't happen that often because communists are willing to actually bring up things that liberals are not. Right? That conservatives know how to debate liberals. That's why, like Ben Shapiro, no, Aaron, a lot of those wars were fought without American forces, right? Like the Iran-Contra thing. Like, America funds third parties constantly. Really, really regularly. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And so and when they're put up against communists, right, the communists will actually say things that conservatives can't really talk to. Because when conservatives actually talk to the points that communists bring up, they sound like psychos, right? Like, because they essentially, like, we're seeing it now. Like, we got PragerU basically doing slavery apologetics, right? Like, these people sound insane when you actually start talking about the nature of capital and start bringing things to the table, right? So instead of sounding like insane psychopaths, They just become intentionally stupid, right? Because it's all they've got left. Because it's either that or begin to acknowledge the psychopathic nature of capital, right? Begin to acknowledge the psychopathic nature of the system, or at least begin arguing from the position of being a psychopath, right? Like, because that's essentially what it comes down to. That at some point you have to start arguing that it's okay for people to be slaves. Like, you just have to, because that's what's going on, right? It's a wage slave system after all. Like, the system is a system of exploitation. The best that you can do is deny it, or play dumb, and that's the best that you can do. And that's basically what's going on, right? You just kind of have to play dumb, right? And I've seen it often enough to know, like, I don't really tolerate it. Like, it's a big reason why I don't do the debate bro stuff, because I'm like, oh, you're just being intentionally stupid. Like, you're just being dumb on purpose so that the conversation stops, essentially. I love this one, by the way. I think Anemone put this in the Discord. I wanted to show it. The leopards eating people's faces party. Proud member. It's not like they're going to eat my face. Wonka, wonk, 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 wonk. Okay, let's actually get into a little bit of good news, right? Good opportunity. Let's get into a little bit of good news. Hey, how about that? Silverlight on Twitch. Good to see you, my man. Yeah, bait and switch on to the next grift. Exactly. The Massachusetts Millionaire Tax to fund free school lunches. Every kid in Massachusetts will get a free lunch paid for by proceeds from a new state tax on millionaires. A new 4% tax, that's 96% too low, on the state's wealthiest residents will account for $1 billion of the state's $56 billion fiscal budget for 2024, according to state documents. A portion of those funds will be used to provide all public school students with free weekday meals, according to State House News Service. The new tax, which was approved by voters last year, went into effect 2023, applies to Massachusetts residents with incomes over $1 million. So hold on, you raised 4%, so a new 4% tax, and you got $1 billion. So if you were to raise that so if this was a 40% tax, you would get $10 billion, right? Am I doing my math right? Is that correct? Right? Like, we should tax these people out of existence. Like, these people should no longer exist. They should simply no longer exist. Very, very straightforward. Very, very straightforward. And, like, the proof's in the pudding. You tax these guys, what do you end up with? Free school lunches. Fantastic. Yeah. Got to get the kids back to school somehow. Attendance is, like, super down in some places, aren't they? Well, I mean, we are in a position now, Silverlight, where, like, you need everybody working to make it work, right? Like, you can't afford to have that kid go to school. That kid needs to go to work, right? That kid's got to make money. Straight up, that kid's got to make money. Like, we got rent to pay here. Like, we got bills. Like, we're in a real situation, right? And you're telling me that not only do I need to remove my child as a laborer, so I can't sell his labor as a parent. Now you're also telling me that I got to pay for his food at a place where the food is probably pretty expensive. No. Too bad. He stays home. Like, what's wild to me about this story, right? Like, you guys know me. My position is very straightforward and very simple. Food and shelter should be free. Like, food and shelter should be free. It should not be withheld from the society, should not be withheld from the populace. That the trade-off should be that the populace is involved in the maintenance of shelter, the creation of shelter, and the creation of food. That should be the trade-off, right? Because it requires such a small, infinitely small amount of labor in order to manage these things. And if everybody was involved in it, then it should be free. It should be completely free. And if you really want to get stuck in the mud about it, yeah, fine. Have your farmer guy make the money he's currently making, right? Maintain whatever dumb little capitalist system you want, but funnel it into a single-payer system like we do with our healthcare. Like, it's sort of wild to me that we've all looked at one another in non-American countries and been like, yeah, health should be free. Not food or shelter, though. That you gotta earn. You gotta earn it. You gotta earn it. And no, you can't earn it by just maintaining the system of food generation or the system of housing. No, that's privately held, right? They're going to make money to make as much profit as they can, right? And then you need to go somewhere else and sell yourself somewhere else in order to justify to them your existence to have food and shelter instead of just getting access to the food and shelter in the first place. Like, when you actually lay this shit out, it's incredibly stupid. Like, our society is so fucking dumb. Like, it's so fucking stupid the way that it's structured. And we're all just like, normal. This is a normal, rational way to structure everything. It makes sense that 2% of the society makes all the food, and that in the times when they need extra labor, what we'll do is we'll erect a temporary foreign workers program, a slave system, in order to exploit cheap labor from countries we blow up. Instead of just getting our own citizens to go there and pay them a decent wage. This makes sense. This is the way to structure things. Like, it's stupid. It's fucking so stupid. And we're just doing it. We're just like, yeah, it's a normal thing. Yeah, right? Instead of just creating safety and stability for everybody. It's almost as though giving all of the power to a handful of psychopaths isn't actually bearing out. It's not actually helping anybody. Holy shit. So is there any surprise that here we have in Quebec, in the province of Quebec, which is the province next to mine, 1 in 10 workers soon to be on strike? Rookie numbers. Let's pump those numbers. With more than 420,000 members, the Front Commun des Syndicats, United Front of Unions in Quebec, representing employees in Quebec's public sector, in negotiations for almost a year and without a collective agreement since March 31st, is organizing a major demonstration of strength on September 23rd in Montreal. That sounds awesome. I hope they strike. I hope everybody strikes. I hope we have a general strike. I hope the whole thing falls apart. Right? I hope the whole thing fucking falls apart for these useless capitalists. I hope the whole thing falls apart and that everybody comes together and just like literally like, why are we tolerating these capitalists at all and their stupid fake money and all their dumb bullshit? Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what we're doing. Fiddleford's catalog writes, instead of the particular organization, I'll suggest some of the nations represented. Grassy Narrow and the mercury poisonings. I'm definitely going to mispronounce this, but I'm so sorry. Nega Skantega. I think I did okay. As well, the Ring of Fire is unpopular as it was imposed. For sure. Like, I'm glad to see that, like, when I'm talking about the organization, like people needing to go on strike and people needing to fight back against this system, like, this is nice, okay? It's nice to see like workers who want to come together and improve their own wages. Great. Like, we need to get together to dismantle this whole fucking system. This entire system was built on genocide and slavery. That's the reason it exists. Full stop. If you're going to stand up and say anything other than that, then you're being intentionally dumb on purpose. And we shouldn't tolerate it. So when you're listening to these Shapiro guys and you're listening to this kind of stuff, they're basically just saying, reality doesn't exist. Facts do matter. Like, the guys that are like, facts do matter are saying facts don't matter. When it comes to, like, the reality that our systems were built by slavers, right? Genocidal maniacs who did some really crazy shit. And even though they're gone, right? Well, I didn't do any of that. I didn't do that. Yeah, but the systems they built are still here, right? It's like saying, like, I didn't build the machine that smashes babies with a hammer. I wasn't responsible for building the baby masher machine, right? And even, so you can't blame me when it mashes babies, right? And but what if I stood up and then said, well, can we get rid of the baby masher machine? Can we stop the baby masher machine? And he was like, no, that's a good baby masher machine. Perfectly fine. Or even better, they were like, there is no baby masher machine while it's mashing babies in front of them. What a horrible image I'm creating. But it's gotten to that kind of scale now. It's gotten to that kind of level of obtuseness where we're just like, we're watching a machine grind people up constantly, denying that it exists. And then saying things like, okay, fine, it does exist, but we didn't make it. Well, okay, we could turn it off, right? And we should. And this to me is my whole pitch and my whole argument is that we should turn this goddamn machine off. We should put Milo. We should put our bodies on the gears. We should put our bodies on the gears and destroy the machine. And it's because of things like this. Like the First Nations people are our allies and on our side. They know firsthand the results of white genocidal imperialism. We should get rid of it. We should get rid of the system that generated this. We should think of different things. We should create new ways of organizing with ourselves and organizing. 1 second, guys. Milo, no more. No more. I'm talking to people. Milo doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand at all. Are you going to take on the viral song Richmond, North of Richmond? Are we talking about the thing that Midwestern Marks sent around recently? Is that what we're talking about? This whole thing? Let me see if I can find the real good meme for it. Was it the meme? Milo, no more, my man. Sorry, guys. My dog is like, I start talking and he immediately is just like, oh my goodness, we're playing. We're playing, guys. We're playing. There's a big talk happening in my Discord. Is this what we're talking about? I haven't actually listened to any of it, right? Essentially, I didn't really want to talk about it too much because it is sort of infield baseball, but like it is true that Midwestern Marks has kind of taken a mega communist turn, which is unfortunate. It's sad to see, right? I'm not a fan of it. That like I think Eddie said it best, is that he's just like the problem with the left is that while we might agree economically, we don't necessarily agree, or they can't tolerate opposing views on social issues, I think is the phrase that he used. And it's like, yeah, if your opposing social view is that like certain groups of people should not be acknowledged as people, like that's a problem. That's a problem, right? He's been kind of flirting with that a little bit, Compton, and now with this recommend, like this is Midwestern Marks, right? Like he's recommending this guy, and that guy's straight up. We've got people in the Discord who did a really good job showing some evidence, showing some stuff. I don't have it right on my fingertips, but basically, like this guy is backed by finance capital. He's being pushed at us on purpose. Like if we're looking at the absolute worst case scenario with figures like this Oliver fellow. Like if we're looking at worst possible case scenarios with this, what's his damn name, Oliver Anthony. If we're looking at the worst possible case scenario, then we are looking at kind of a Hitler-esque move, where it's like take over socialist left-wing movements, and take over socialist left-wing movements and then corrupt them. Right? Like that seems to be the strategy. 1 second, guys. Okay, Milo. You have lost your freedom rights. You know what, bud? Even better. Come here. Let's do it this way. There you go, my man. Once I get talking, Milo is just like, John's definitely talking to me. There's no other reason for John to be talking. He's got to be talking to me. Aaron asking the big questions. How does MAGA and communism fit together? That seems like there would be some serious contradictions, and there certainly are. I don't think that it's an intellectual thing. Straightforwardly. I don't think that it is based in intellectual rigor. I don't think it's based in attempting to create consistency or coherency, right? And there's no point attempting to go after coherency with Trump supporters. What they're doing is not coherent, right? It is emotional. Like, and let me be very clear when I say this. Just because it's emotional doesn't mean we should dismiss it, right? That emotions count, and the mega crowd is running emotional and running hot, right? Running hot, okay? Like, we're anybody who's standing around trying to be like, but it doesn't make any sense from the logos, from the logical perspective. The answer to that is correct. It does not make logical sense. Good, you've done it. But then if you go and walk away from it, then you'll never understand it, because it makes total sense, complete and total sense emotionally. That the Trump supporters and the Trump crowd make all the sense in the world from an emotional perspective. And the merger of MAGA and communism makes sense from an emotional perspective. The fact that it's happening from that emotional perspective does mean that it's incredibly dangerous, right? So the ride or die Trump crowd is essentially just fury. That's it. It's just the voice of total fury, that Trump is to them this anti-establishment figure who represents not just an opposition of the Democratic Party, but also an opposition of the neocons generally. And again, it doesn't matter if that's true. It matters that that's what they see and that's what they think emotionally, right? And that Trump is this outside force that's going to go in there and drain the swamp and cause all problems against the people who caused all these problems in the first place, right? Like, it pays to remember that Donald Trump defeated the old neocon guard within the Republican Party. That a guy like Jeb Bush, who should have been, by all accounts, should have been the guy that wore the crown, right? Jesus Christ, with commies like these, who needs fascists? Yeah. Jeb Bush never polled higher than 5%. Like, he should have been the guy. Like, he should have been the leader of but by conventional wisdom, that's what should have happened. But he never polled higher than 5%. Trump killed him. Trump killed him in one debate. And he did it by just pointing at the Iraq War, essentially. And the Republican Party just shit all these neocons out. It's why you have this crazy new group, right? You've got people like Matt Gaetz. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've got Lauren Boebert. You've got Donald Trump himself, obviously, right? And then eventually Donald Trump Jr., who's clearly grooming himself to become the next president. Once his dad's out of the limelight, Donald Trump Jr. knows exactly what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to galvanize and seize that energy and continue forward with it, without a doubt. And you can see it. I've been watching his trajectory. He's getting better. He's not as good as his dad, and I doubt he ever will be. But he's getting better. He's getting better. And there could be a day, where he turns that corner and he actually does. Mega commies, Nazbols. That's another term for them, right? And the Nazbol movement, it predates. That's an old European movement, and it's a similar sort of idea, right? It's to merge fascism and communism as a single group. And the pitch from the communists, right? The pitch from the communists, okay, who are doing this, the mega commie group, and that's people like Caleb Maupin. Yeah, Caleb Maupin definitely started that. You also have a fellow on the internet, Infrared. I forget his name. Hab, I believe is I don't know what his actual name is, honestly, but he seems to be in the middle of that. And then also now it looks like Eddie is taking that route as well, which is unfortunate. But the pitch is that we as leftists do need to reach out to the right, and we simply can't reject the right. That's right. Thanks, Mikhail. Good to see you, by the way. And you, the infamous, good to see you too. and we can't simply ignore the right. We can't just shrug at them and speak to them condescendingly and shit on them, right? That they point out that many of the economic troubles that are facing Americans are also hitting Republican right-wing people, right? And that is definitely true. And so we have to, and so we should reach out to them on communist principles and not allow their social views to obstruct us from doing so, right? And that's sort of the pitch, that we should appeal to them from the economic line while remaining neutral, or in some of their cases, I think, going along with them on what they consider social issues. It's not difficult to see the twisting of the knife here. It's not difficult to see the result here, that we're going to improve the quality of life for everybody and make things better for everyone except the Jews. Right? We're gonna do everything we can to make sure that there's an improved quality of life and everybody has a job and works hard for the system of capital. Right? We're gonna make it so that you'll have a better pension, right? And unless you're trans, there's a lot of unlesses that are gonna happen with a movement like this, because that's the whole reason why aligning yourself, why ignoring what's called quote unquote social issues, why it doesn't actually work the way that you think it's going to work, because the whole principle, the whole economic idea behind Marxism is that it's for the whole society and that it's for the entire working class. It's Marx wasn't walking around being like, unless you're gay, right? The workers should own the means of production unless they're gay. And that's more or less what will happen. That's more or less what would happen. I can understand why Americans would go for this, right? And I can understand why people would go for this. The society itself is extremely far right, right? The society itself is extremely far right. The majority of the society is right wing. I would call it the overwhelming majority. Even liberals. And Pittsburgh, I think you might actually be knowing more about this than I do. The Nazbols were national Bolsheviks. I might be misremembering. I don't want to give out bad information. So the Nazbols were national Bolsheviks. They weren't combining fascism. They fought against the Nazis. What I am definitely thinking of a group where that attempted to merge far right principles with these far left principles. Can you actually explain what's wrong with Dugin? No, I've never read anything by Dugin. I'll be straight with you. So. I'm not even sure exactly who that is as a figure. So, I don't know everything, obviously. And the Maupin was on a panel with Alexander Dugin. Oh, yeah, I remember this. Dugin is he's a Russian, right? Like a Russian philosopher. And you know what, man? Let's all learn this together. Let's go. Let's all do it. What is a Nazbol? Here we go. National Bolshevism, whose supporters are known as National Bolsheviks, are colloquially Nazbols, as a syncretic political movement that combines fascism and Bolshevism. Eat it, Pittsburgh dude 87. Eat it. Dunk. Debate bro win. Clip it. Wikipedia says so it must be true, Pittsburgh dude. National Bolshevism as a term was first used to describe a faction in the Communist Party of Germany. and later the Communist Workers' Party of Germany, which wanted to ally the insurgent communist movement with dissident nationalist groups in the German army who rejected the treaties of Versailles. Henrik Laffenberg and Fritz Wolfhelm. Those are super German names right there, dude. Fritz Wolfhelm? Come on. Wolfheim, my bad. Led the factions primarily based in Hamburg. They were subsequently expelled from the KAPD, which Karl Radek justified by stating it was necessary if the KAPD were to be welcomed into the Third Congress of the Third Internationale. Although the expulsion would likely have happened regardless, as Radek previously dismissed the pair as National Bolsheviks, which was the first recorded use of the term. National Bolshevism was among several early ultranationalist and, according to some, fascist movements in Germany that predate Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party. During the 1920s, a number of German intellectuals began a dialogue which created synthesis between radical nationalism and Bolshevism as it existed in the Soviet Union. Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Maupin says he's a patriotic socialist. That's right. That Maupin's view of this is that he wants to take what he considers to be the positive aspects of his society. So, like, Abraham Lincoln is a big figure, right? Abraham Lincoln is a big figure, and Abraham Lincoln, he freed the slaves. He represents the freedom of the slaves, and that sort of idea, and so that kind of patriotic view of the past to be brought forward into the present day, merged with socialist ideas, right? And again, I understand why that's appealing. That Americans are heavily propagandized and believe heavily in their mythos, right? And don't want to reject that mythos. That's why this sort of recent attack against the Founding Fathers, that's why this attack on the Founding Fathers being slave owners and really going deep on that slave owning angle is actually a considerable threat, right? And why you have a recent pushback against it. That there is this recent pushback that is happening. People like Elon Musk are pushing back against it, being like, oh, yeah, okay, they were slave owners, but that's not all they were, right? That's sort of the line that they're using in order to try to push the slave-owning aspect back into the shadows and bring to regain the mythos, to recreate the myth of people like Washington. And to me, that's, I think, where, like, when I first encountered Maupin, I didn't hate him, right? Robin Goodfellow says, "What's this? The most predictable Twitch politics stream ever?" I wouldn't say predictable, Robin. Good to see you. Maybe stick around. Well, you guys are harping on one thing. I mean, if you say so. Says somebody who's been around for what, 5 minutes? Okay. I wish that he wouldn't. I wish that he wouldn't care so much about his patriotism, because to me, it's of no value. It doesn't matter at all, right? History matters. Who these people were matters, right? But the veneration of figures in the past is irrelevant, and it slows you down. It makes your philosophy bad. And you end up having to defend things that you shouldn't bother. And so I think Maupin would be better off. And I understand the point. The point is to try to appeal to those who are patriotic, right? And there are a lot of them. So I get it. Dugin's philosophy is an open fascist. Yeah, again, to be completely clear, I don't know much about this Dugin guy. I've only done glancing looks his way. Open fascist that laid the groundwork for the fake history Putin used in his fake history essay on the historical unity of Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, again, I'm not 100% an expert on this Dugin fellow. Why did Stanford students host a group of Ukrainian neo-Nazis? Speaking of fascism, Let's actually talk about some serious fascism that's actually happening right in front of our faces, instead of the suspected fascism that we expect may happen in the mega communist from the mega communists, right? Conversations about white supremacy in America today typically center on right-wing media and incendiary politicians who blast out racist dog whistles. But hate doesn't need demagogues to get mainstreamed. It also has found an outlet at elite universities. On June 29th, Stanford University hosted a delegation from the Azov Brigade, a neo-Nazi formation on the Ukrainian National Guard. The panel, during which Azov's neo-Nazi insignia was projected onto the wall, was attended by noted political scientist Francis Fukuyama, who posed for a photograph with the delegation. This event, and the disturbing lack of reaction from Jewish organizations, this is from the Jewish News, showcases the limits of Americans' commitment to combating white supremacy. Pretty brutal, Stanford. Pretty brutal. Robin Goodfellow, I'm just saying not every political concept has to come from Jewish communists who hated the West. Why you got to bring up the Jewish, right? What's that all about, Robin? What and I mean, there's a lot to hate about the West. Maybe if the West didn't want to be hated so much, it should stop acting in such a way. Yeah, okay. Sure, Robin. The the West has a lot to answer for. Like, the West has a lot to answer for on the world stage. Like, it's since World War II alone, it's brought nothing but pain and suffering to every nation it's ever touched. It's literally invaded the vast majority of the world, blown up huge sections of it. Like, name a country, and chances are good that America has invaded it at some point. Like, stolen its resources, committed an atrocity against its people. Like, this sort of myth that you're believing in, that America and the West is somehow is somehow to be loved. Yeah. I understand exactly why people would want to criticize the West, and I understand exactly why people of the West should be criticized. So, I think we should probably listen to philosophies that do so. The West created most things you like about civilization, too. Not just the U.S., going back to ancient Greece. Chances are good that, like, ancient Greece took most of what it knows from Egypt and other African nations, right? Like, I'm sorry, man, if you got to reach back to fucking ancient Greece. 4,000 years ago, like... Yeah, I guess they did, you know, when they got through the crucifixion period, you know, some good things happened, I suppose. Like, by the way, the thing about Putin on historical unity of Ukraine, it's actually extremely accurate. Took place throughout that region. I mean, that's always been sort of my take. I've just never really sifted through the thingamajig, the jiggerbop. The speech, there's the word. And then in other neo-Nazi news, Neo-Nazi Activist Club counts several U.S. military as members, from The Guardian. A neo-Nazi active club counts several current and former members of the United States military as its members. The Guardian has learned, including a Lance Corporal machine gunner currently in detention on insubordination charges, and a former U.S. Marine Corps Staff Sergeant who was booted from the service for stealing large quantities of ammunition. Lance Corporal Machine Gunner Mohammed Wada and former Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Gunner Naughton are part of the Clockwork Crew, California's first active club, according to the group's own internal research records and social media posts, as well as law enforcement sources. Active clubs, white nationalists and neo-fascist fight clubs that train in combat sports, are a growing concern for U.S. law enforcement. Their recruitment among active and former members of the military underscores both the broadening appeal of the fitness-centric organizing model and the American Armed Service persistent struggle with extremism within the ranks. The Clockwork Crew, formerly known as Crew 562, the area code for Long Beach, California, was founded in 2021 and counts roughly a dozen members, researchers say. The group has considerable overlap with other California active clubs, as well as with the Golden State Skinheads, a more traditional skinhead gang, of whom some members stabbed several anti-fascist protesters at a chaotic 2016 clash outside the state capitol in Sacramento. Clockwork Crew's reach also briefly extended to Eastern Europe. Juraj Mesic, a Croatian neo-Nazi, headed an 8-person chapter in that county before being arrested in March for racist abuse of an immigrant worker, according to news reports and internal chats. And it just goes on. And it just goes on. Who is a historian that would say that essay isn't anything but mythology? Yeah, probably Grover Furr. Grover Furr seems right. Like, I mean, it's sort of odd for Americans to talk about myth making in their ranks, right? It's basically what Americans do. Oh, dude, come on. Come on. Like, why even bother? Like, why even bother talking to us if you're going to come in and talk that way? Please do not say rude things about other ethnic groups. Very straightforwardly. Like, basic stuff. Basic stuff. Like, basic human shit, right? Like, if you can't have basic humanity, like, we don't need you around. Very, very straightforward, too. Yeah, no, get the F out of here. We don't need to be saying rude things about any ethnic group of any sort at any time for any reason. Unacceptable. Like, we don't need petty childish insults. We don't need dumb slurs. We don't need that kind of stuff, right? We don't need children around here. Go grow up a little bit. Come on back. Like, for God's sakes, we're talking about like neo-Nazi clubs. We're talking about like the serious decline of Western civilization in here. Like, we don't need somebody commenting on what like the way Jews look. Bye. Don't need little weird creepy Nazis around here. Don't need creepy little weird Nazis around here. Nazis are bad. No. Don't hang around them. No. Yeah, Nazis are bad, guys. Nazis are bad. Well, yeah, I honestly, when it comes to this specific speech, I don't care to deep dive into it because, like, I don't think it matters that much. Like, I'm sure that Putin overstretched his statements. It's not a linchpin. It doesn't pivot anything. Like, even if it was like total bullshit, so what? It doesn't matter to me at all. And I'm sure there's some historian somewhere, right, that is going to write about it and be like, actually, right? And okay. Like, this is the thing when it comes to this sort of stuff, right? Like, I generally assume that when important figures stand up and talk, they're going to bullshit us. Like, I just sort of assume that's true, and in my view, it reflects almost nothing at this point. I'm not going to be like, did you guys know? Oh my God, Putin stood up, Biden stood up, Trudeau stood up, and he said something that wasn't true. Like every single political figure in the history of all humanity forever, ad infinitum, ad nauseum, to the end of time. Like, if your goal is to demonize a person and to demonize a leader and to demonize a nation based on that leader or any of that kind of stuff, you can always do it 100% of the time. You will be 100% successful every single time you set out to do it. Because every single leader, everywhere, at any moment, at any time, has said something that is either false or just like a stretching of the truth, right? Or is creating a mythical narrative of their own right. That's called doing politics. Like, really hate to bust your balls or be a dickhead about it, but that's just the truth. You can never, no political leader in their entire history gets out of office without telling some kind of myth or diminish or alter or change or shift. And so I just don't like care. It doesn't matter to me that much. Like, it just doesn't. Like, it just doesn't. Like, what matters to me is what they do and what they accomplish and the legacy they leave behind. And what they set out to accomplish and what they actually accomplish. Right? And, like, Putin is actually a fascinating figure from that angle. Like, he's absolutely a fascinating Russian figure who I'll be very, very curious to see what happens to Russia post-Putin. But without a doubt, Putin is going to be remembered. Putin is going to be remembered as a pivotal figure in Russian history. That he is, without a doubt, the moment when Russia recognized that it could never be part of the West. That post-Stalin, the trajectory of Russia was Western appeasement in an attempt to become part of the West, become integrated with Western sources, with Western institutions, rather. That's absolutely the trajectory of Russia, from Khrushchev all the way to Putin. And it's really, really clear to see that Putin saw himself as the man to finish the job, the man to take this idea that was really laid out by Gorbachev, and to stick the landing and to finally slide it in and just fit like a glove and say, okay, Russia, we are now officially part of the West. And initially, I think he did think that was what was going to happen. But it's under his leadership and it's under his tenure in Russia that I think the Russians and he himself came to acknowledge and recognize that was never going to happen. That all of this Western appeasement and all of this was not actually having the result that they were hoping for, and that the West was always going to view Russia as a threat. The West was always going to view Russia as a place to balkanize and harvest. That is how the West views Russia. That Russia needs to be broken apart. That Russia needs to be balkanized. That Russia needs to be harvested for its resources. That's the goal of the West, without a doubt. And I think Putin is going to be seen as the figure who pivoted away from the West, and that his pivot towards the BRICS nations, towards China, India, is going to be seen as absolutely instrumental for the future of Russia. And I'll be extremely, extremely, extremely curious to see, and I'll actually have the absolute pleasure of seeing Putin pass the baton to the next generation of leadership. And we'll see what that looks like, because there's no guarantee of where it's going to go. And there's no guarantee it's going to swing one way or the other, right? Like, it could get pretty wonky and pretty fucky pretty fast, right? Like, it really could. Yeah, Gaddafi in Libya was a big, big moment for sure. No, the infamous, you deleted it because I think there was some spelling mistakes, but like that's absolutely the truth. That Libya was, without a doubt, like anybody who's going to walk around and act as a NATO stan and actually talk about how awesome NATO is or how great NATO is as a defensive alliance or whatever, right, is essentially lying to themselves and you about Libya. Libya was 100% black and white, no shades of gray. You can't debate it. It was a war of aggression against a nation that was not a threat, not a military threat to NATO. They took the strongest economy on the African continent and turned it into a slave society that was doing open slave trade selling and is now embroiled in civil war. And that's what NATO did to Libya. And Putin watched it happen, and Putin had words to say about it, and he wasn't quiet about it. And I think that you're right. I think that if he had suspicions before Libya, and I think he probably had I think he probably did have suspicions before Libya, but Libya is definitely that moment. And then, like, Georgia, the Georgian conflict happens, And that's got to be like a big moment for Putin, for sure, which gets overshadowed by the Iraq War, of course. So nobody gave a shit about the Georgian conflict. And then, of course, the events of what has transpired in Syria, the conflicts and the proxy war between the United States and Russia in Syria. And then Ukraine, right? Ukraine is like the final nail in the coffin, where it's finally acknowledged, even across the West, right? That like for those for people who were like kind of paying attention, there was always sort of a tension there. Like I won't lie to you, like I didn't really understand that tension that well until the Ukrainian invasion personally. I, like, straight up, no lie, I did not think that invasion was going to happen. I didn't think that invasion was going to happen. And I didn't think it was going to happen because I fell for rational thought theory, right? That the theory that everybody is going to act rationally, right? The theory that if somebody does something, you're going to respond in a rational way. And while I could see there was like a buildup of troops and Russia was planning something, I just sort of assumed that America would go, okay, let's not be insane psychopaths here, and that was my mistake. I just assumed that America would not want that war to happen, right? I just assumed that America would go, okay, like come on, like we don't need to do this, right? We can make a deal here, we can cut a deal. Right, I just like a lot of communists in the past. I think Stalin is also guilty of this. I misunderstood the character of the leadership of the West. Like these people are psychopaths, and they have a type of rationality. Right? It's a type of rationality, but that rationality is rooted in how can I satisfy myself, right? Whether that's getting more resources, whether that's getting more assets for me personally, right? As a Westerner, so someone like Biden, right? Someone like the CEOs of Lockheed Martin, right? Like how can I sate my, and then there's also like straight up, like how can I sate my bloodlust? I think somebody like John Bolton is like this. He just has bloodlust. He longs for blood. He longs to see people die, and it's pretty obvious to me. Like John Bolton is like that, and and so when that invasion happens, that's finally the moment where the West responds. Oh, evil, unprovoked attack, oh my God, right? And so now the narrative is anti-Russian across the West. And that's definitely the nail in the coffin for that relationship. Like, it's actually over now. And Russia has pivoted, or is going to continue pivoting, towards the global South. And I look at it as, like, a complete disaster for the West. That the West should have absolutely taken a hold of the extended hand of Russia, and absolutely should have allowed Russia into the Western institutions. That the G7 should have become the G8 and stayed that way. That Russia should have been integrated into NATO. Like absolutely. This whole situation that's unfolding in front of us right now is outright, overt catastrophe for the West. It's catastrophically bad what's going to happen to the nation on a whole, and it's unfolding this way because the leadership of America is embroiled in individualism, this individual idea that my wealth is all that matters. So as long as I continue moving forward in pursuit of my profit and my wealth, then the invisible hand of the market will decide and everything will be fine. I don't genuinely believe that there is anyone at any level in the American foreign policy system of any kind that is actually thinking about what they are doing in a meta perspective, like in a perspective that actually includes like what will happen on a global political scale. I really do think that everybody is basically just in it for themselves. And if anybody does stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, doesn't alienating the Russians mean that they're going to turn to the Chinese and the Indians and start to work with them? Doesn't it mean, like, doesn't this really just empower China in a big and serious way? Like, I don't think there's anybody actually saying that, and that Americans and America are just reacting, right? They're just reactionaries. Things happen, and then they react to those things. And then things happen because of the reaction that they had, and then they react to those things. That they're not actually sitting down and contemplating anything. They're not actually thinking things through. They're not actually making a plan. They're not actually doing any of that kind of stuff. They're just reacting. And the rest of the world is actually sitting down and making a plan, and is actually thinking to themselves, oh, like, what are we going to do for the next 5 years? Like, what are we going to do for the next 5 years? Like, what are we going to do for the next 100 years? Like, what's the trajectory? What's the plan? What's the idea? What's the thinking? What's the thought? And the entire rest of the world is thinking that way. We are not. We are absolutely not. And we are going to pay for it pretty dearly, that the entire rest of the world is beginning to recognize that we are a significant threat. The entire rest of the world is starting to recognize that we need to be isolated, and is taking the steps that are absolutely necessary to isolate us, to ensure that the center of trade is no longer the American dollar, to ensure that the center of the global system is not America, and the leadership that we have, and the leadership that we will continue to have, is essentially going to just watch that all unfold, and the only thing that they will think about is exactly the thing that they are thinking about in Maui with this forest fire, which is, how do we actually make the most amount of money from this catastrophe? Right? That's the only thing that these capitalists are going to care about. They are not going to care about how do we alleviate the suffering of the proletariat or the workers or the citizenry. How do we alleviate the suffering of the people, of the electorate, of the people who vote for us? They are exclusively going to be thinking, oh, how do we profit from this? How do we ensure that our profits are secured? And what we are looking at in this society in a very, very real way is a decline in the standard of living, because we're simply not going to have access to goods anymore. Like the goods that we have had access to, we're simply not going to have access to that any longer, because we don't have anything of value to trade anyone anymore. Right? Like, once the value of the dollar declines and people recognize that, oh, like, we can trade amongst ourselves, right? We can trade amongst ourselves and trade goods amongst ourselves. We don't need America as an intermediary. We don't need to abide by the IMF. We don't need to abide by any of these organizations. We can literally just trade amongst ourselves without America's involvement. Like, what are we going to do? Right? What are we going to do? And the only solution that America actually has, and the only solution that America will reach for, is war. It's the only thing it knows how to do. It's the only thing they manufacture. Right? America doesn't manufacture shit. It doesn't make anything. Right? America makes bombs. That's what America makes. Right? And that's what they've been exporting. That's what they're going to continue to export. And the trouble with that philosophy and with that thinking is that the rest of the world can build faster than America can bomb. And that's just the truth. Right? That's just the truth. That thankfully for the rest of the world, America is eroding its tax base so significantly and so quickly that they won't be able to afford to build the bombs anymore. They won't be able to afford the materials to actually build the weaponry they need to continue waging war on the world the way that they have. And that the rest of the world is actually going to likely use the resources of reality and of the world to do something worthwhile, to actually explore stuff, to actually research, to actually involve itself in something more serious. Like, one of the things that I've been saying a lot on this channel, this is a bit of a pivot. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles, do all the stuff, right? Ping all the things, right? Give me some money. If you've got $1 jangling around that pocket, right? Patreon, all the stuff. You guys know how this works. Most importantly, for God's sakes, tell people I exist. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dad. Tell your uncle who keeps rambling about how great capitalism is, right? Like, challenge them. Tell them to come talk to somebody who's going to tell them what's what. Because there's a lot of intentional stupidity going around. And I don't see why we need to tolerate that any longer, right? Tell people I exist. I've been saying for a long time on this channel, right, that this whole AI craze is exactly that. That it's just a pitch. It's just something that says to us, it's just a sales pitch. They're overhyping it so that we'll buy it, right? It's just another product to be sold. And finally, we got a guy, top physicist, says chatbots are just glorified tape recorders and predicts a different computing revolution is ahead. The recent frenzy around ChatGPT and a similar generative AI technologies is deemed by leading physicist Michio Kaku as media sensationalism that could overshadow the impending breakthrough in quantum computing. In an interview with CNN's Fareed Zakaria, Kaku acknowledges chatbots' efficiency in content generation, but underscored their limitations in distinguishing truth from fiction and accurate data from misinformation. He dismissed them as glorified tape recorders, rearranging existing internet content. It takes snippets of what's on the web, created by a human, splices them together, and passes it off as if it generated these things. He told Zakaria in an interview on Sunday, people are saying, oh my God, it's a human, it's human-like. The chatbot simply rearranges whatever is on the internet already. Kaku's criticism echoes similar recent comments from Meredith Whittaker, a former Google AI researcher, who quit the company in protest. This isn't intelligence. This is basically a sort of warped mirror of what's on the internet for the last 20 years, designed to spit out things that seem plausible, she told NBC's Meet the Press in May. Instead, Kaku, a leading expert in the field of particle physics and string theory, wanted to draw attention to the coming revolution in quantum computing, which he argues in his latest book will change the course of history. Quantum computers are the closest approximation of the human brain's processing power. Mother Nature is still ahead of us. Our brain is the most complex object in the known universe, he said. Highlighting quantum computing's potential, Kaku emphasized its parallel processing akin to the human brain's complex simultaneous reactions. He explained that unlike conventional computers, quantum computers, which utilize qubits operating at extremely low temperatures, predicts probabilities rather than deterministic outcomes. They hold the potential to solve complex problems that even the most advanced supercomputers would struggle with. Think of a mouse in a maze. A digital calculator would calculate the trajectory of each mouse at every joint, at every place where there's a decision to be made. That takes forever, Kaku said. A quantum computer instantly analyzes all possible trajectories simultaneously. Fortunately, AI leaders like Google and Microsoft aren't putting all their eggs in the AI chatbot basket. Both have invested heavily in building the most powerful universal gate machines in the hunt for quantum supremacy, the moment when their quantum computers surpass in ability the most advanced digital computers around. Yeah, you know what this article doesn't say? Because it's Fortune, right? You know who's actually the lead? You know who's actually leading in these fields? China. You know who the actual leader of these is? China. Right? So quantum computing, going to change the world. Oh my God, it's the future. It's the history. Well, who's the leader? China. China's the industry leader. Like, we're going to fall behind. We're going to fall behind fast. And it's going to become exponential. It's going to become exponential. You just need to take a look at the way the market is going even. Right? We got a first-time chatter here on Twitch. Good to see you, my man. No to Bud. Or Noto Bud. Or Noto Bud. I'm trying to say names in a lot of different ways these days after I missed a pretty obvious Nazi. I felt really bad about that for a long time. So I'm trying to be more skeptical. Need to have huge money flows to hold up the indexes. I mean, money's not real. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's just total fucking bullshit. Like, it's so annoying to see how much we are invested in this fantasy fiction that we've created. That we're just like, oh man, the money. We got to make that Skrilla. You got to get your money up. Money's not fucking real. Right? You're essentially worshiping a false god that we create so that we can worship it. We waste our entire lives pursuing this fucking dumb false god of our own creation in the idea that the person who is blessed the most by the false god of money is the best, right? They're the individual that is individualized their individualism better than any other individual, and so they therefore are the king. They earned it, right? And it's just dumb. It's just dumb. It's childish and it's stupid, right? We're literally burning the entire planet to the ground, dredging up the corpses of the dead in order to squeeze them through an alchemical process into infernal potions that we pour into machines to grant us superpowers so that we can just drive big trucks around, basically. Like, it's so dim-witted. It's so dim-witted. Like literally just some old guy sitting in a mansion with 50 empty rooms. His kids won't talk to him anymore, staring at a computer screen, being like, come on, line. Go up, line. I'll be safe once the line goes up again. Like, it's like a casino gambling sort of just like, gotta get my fix in sort of feeling. And it's all based on total fucking nonsense. Like, just the most absurdist bullshit nonsense that once you actually step back from the game that is being played and bear witness to the game, you could see really clearly how fucking dumb it is, and that the people who are saying you just need to work harder to ascend the hierarchy to use your competency are actually dim-witted fools, just like decrepit old men who are suffering from a type of fucking dementia and schizophrenia that are just saying the right words so that the capitalists go, yeah, competency is how we got to the top. Absolutely, I am the smartest. I'm going to give that man $1 million for saying that I am smart. I have $10 billion because my dad had a mine in apartheid South Africa where he threw slaves against an emerald mine, and so now I have $10 billion. So I'm going to give the man who says that I am super smart because my daddy used slaves to get emerald mines, I'm going to give him $1 million for sure. Like, this is the system. This is the fucking system, and it's so fucking dumb and annoying and ridiculous and childish and absurd. I think it's the absurdity of it. Just enormous absurdity that we're all just like, oh, money, oh, money, money, dum, dum, dum. Like, people like fucking with the incense. You know what I'm talking about? He's walking up the aisle and everyone's like, money, dum, 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 money, dum, dum, dum. And they like sacrifice a child, right? Pour out the blood into a big dollar sign, right? It goes through the dollar sign. There's money. The blood like spreckles down like on Elon Musk's face, right? And then they like collect the blood and then inject it inside of him, and they're like, money. They do like a blood transfusion in front of the choir, right, into like Warren Buffett, so that he can continue like ghouling around, right? Henry Kissinger is there with him too. Money. Like this is our society. This is what we're doing here. Like this is what we're doing here. This is great. Cool. What a normal place. What a normal place. John, have you played Control? I think you would very much enjoy it. It's very weird and mysterious, like X-Files meets SCP Foundation. I gotta tell you, Conton, now is the absolute worst possible moment to be suggesting games to me. Just absolutely the worst. I actually can't think of a worse moment than right now to be saying, hey, John, I've got a video game for you to play. I am not going to be playing a different video game other than Baldur's Gate 3 for probably 3 months. I think it's going to be like a long time before you see me. Like maybe I'll do like a round of like some action game. I'll play like an action game for like a half hour here or there or something. But I am so deep into Baldur's Gate 3 right now that I'm never coming out of it. Like I'm never coming out of it. It is and understand, I am saying this with having the lineage of like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 7, Mario RPG is a great one. I played like a year, maybe even 2 years of World of Warcraft, right? All the ARPGs that exist, all that kind of stuff. Baldur's Gate 3. Oh, Skyrim. How could you forget Skyrim? Legend of Zelda. All the Legends of Zeldas. All of them. Baldur's Gate 3 is the greatest role-playing game that has ever been created. Hands down, period. And with all seriousness, it isn't actually close. Like, it has absolutely blown away every single expectation I have had of it. That initially when I started playing it, I thought that it was good. I knew immediately that it was good. That the character generation and the dedication to your character choices. But now that I've gone into I'm past the first act now and I'm in the second act. And as I am seeing what is happening in the second act, every single time a character shows up, every single time an event happens, every single time something occurs, I'm just like, are you absolutely fucking kidding me? That characters are showing up that I can kill. I literally, in the first act, I can just betray, not just kill them. I can just like betray them, discard them, mock them openly, laugh at them, steal everything. And then they're there in the second act. And I know I can kill them. And not only are they there, right? Like in previous, like this is the thing that blows my mind the most, okay? In previous kind of RPG games that promise this idea that like your decisions matter and all this kind of stuff, a character will show up, but they'll just be standing there, right? They'll just be standing there and they'll just be like, hi, it's me, the character. And you'll be like, oh, it's that character. And they'll be like, hi, and then they'll leave. There's one character in specific, and I'm trying to not be spoilery at all. There's one character that exists in my playthrough right now that is instrumental to the plot. Absolutely instrumental. And I know for a fact that I can utterly destroy them if I want to in the first act. That I could just like, bang, they're dead. Goodbye. You are out of this game. And in the second act, they are utterly instrumental to the plot. In a way that has me thinking, like, how does this work without them? How does this happen if they're not there? Like, what occurs? And it's very, very clear that there's this entire other subset of a game. There's an entire thing happening that I am just not privy to. I just don't know what it is. But I know it's there, right? It has to be there. And I've done everything I can to stay away from spoilers online or anything like this, but anytime I catch like a glimpse, like anytime it comes by my peripheral view, I see people saying things that has about events that have unfolded that has convinced me, like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, it is obvious that there is this whole other thing, just like. Have you played the ME, I think that's Mass Effect trilogy? I have played the Mass Effect trilogy. Mass Effect 1 was not particularly good. It was okay, right? But it definitely created the platform for Mass Effect 2, the absolute best of the series, to stand upon. And Mass Effect 2 was an excellent game. And then Mass Effect 3 was obviously rushed out the door because of capitalism, but still a good game. But it was very much like that, right? It was like, okay, really good, okay again, and then Andromeda was a catastrophe. Yeah, Baldur's Gate blows it away. And again, it's not close. Like, it's not close, right? Like, this is the thing. This is the thing that I think people are not really understanding. Like, if Carl says, are we talking about Baldur's Gate 3? Trying to decide if I should buy it before hopping into the chat, actually. Buy it. It's the greatest RPG that's ever been made. If you play that game and you think that it is not good, then, like, you and I don't get on. So it's very straightforwardly. Like, yes, it is, like, and I'm saying this having only played through, I don't even think I'm halfway through it yet. I think I'm giving no information because I don't want to do any spoilers at all for anybody, but I think I'm only maybe 35% of the way through, maybe 40% of the way through. And given what I have seen and given the expectation now that has been given to me based on what I am seeing and what I have already experienced, like, I think that like, I don't know how to say it properly. Like, they've given you, like, 6 games. They've given you, it's the density. It's the layering. Like, let's say you have 2 groups that are in a conflict with one another in the biggest possible way, right? You've got 2 groups that are in a conflict in the biggest possible way, okay? And that exists in the game world. Within each of those groups are conflicts as well that can be resolved in many different ways. And the ways in which you resolve those conflicts resonate not just within the group, but then also in the larger body of the act, right? But now what's happening, as I'm going into Act 2, right? Now what's happening is that, so this whole piece, right, Act 1 gets resolved, right? And that's contained. And in literally every RPG I've ever played, that means that that's resolved. And if you see anything past that ever, it's just somebody kind of waving as you drive by, basically. And maybe you can have a conversation with them, right? The decisions that you make in this act carry through to the next act in a way that I can only describe as instrumental to your game. That I think I said it maybe before you were even here, Carl. There's a character right now, and more than one character. There's a character right now in my gameplay and in my game in my run that has been absolutely crucial, pivotal, and instrumental to the plot that I know for a fact I can kill. Like, just outright, I could just choose the other side, betray them utterly, tell them to go die, and not just tell them to go die, kill them. I know I can do that. And here they are, standing in front of me, going through the game with me as an instrumental aspect of the plot. Like, that is fundamentally different than literally any RPG I have ever played. Most of the time when they talk about branching story plots, what they really mean is at some point you get to choose between the red-haired girl or the black-haired girl, and you choose one of them, and then you get, some different dialogue options. Yeah, near as I can tell, like, they are actually delivering in a real and fundamental way on what the promise of these branching storylines have always been, which is that the choices that you make have real consequences, and those consequences resonate until the end of the game. And I've just told you about one character. Like, I have characters who are not in my run through. I have characters, and I know that they are like main quest characters, that they can be with you until the end of the game. I know that. And like so not only, like, when you think about the density is exactly the word to describe this game. It's so impressive what they've done. Like, it's so impressive what they've done. It's so obviously a labor of love. It's so obvious that they're like, no, we love this idea. We love this idea and we want to execute on it. Like, you get to choose from 11 races, 12 classes. And you get to make a character that is going to be ostensibly uniquely you. And we don't even have the mods out yet. Right? We know that there's going to be modders that are going to make like 1 million more hairstyles, a million more tattoos, 1 million more. So your character is going to look like your character. And unlike literally every RPG I've ever played, instead of your character looking like your character and then them plopping a helmet on your head and you look like everybody else, you constantly see what your character looks like. They're constantly showing you your character. And because of the uniqueness of the character creation, every time you see your character, it reinforces yourself and your decisions in the world. That the character you make is ostensibly a aspect of yourself. It's ostensibly an aspect of yourself, and you know that's true. So it's like this artistic representation of yourself within the game world that the game is constantly reinforcing in you, and then your decisions actually carry through the game and there's lots of occasions where the game will just happen to you, where you'll just get into situations and the game will just be like, oh yeah, you got into that situation because you made this decision, 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 then that means that this happens. If at any point you made any different decision along that thread, the game would be like, oh, then you're going that way. And that's just not going to happen. And like, there are, every single character, like every character is like this rich, unique, interesting. There's no boilerplate. Nothing is boilerplate, right? There's no echo. There is no, like, goblin number 1 does not persist, right? There is no, like, hobgoblin number 1 that is just like hobgoblin number 1. There he is again. There he is again. There's another hobgoblin, but he is in some way different than the other hobgoblin, right? And like the every character has, it's so obvious that they went through the game and was just like, okay, so we've got 3 goblins standing here. Okay, so let's make a goblin and like make some decisions about that goblin. Goblin number 2, new goblin, right? And then literally, like, every single character, you can walk into a room and you'll have a conversation with them, and you can convince them that you're on their side, and they'll open up to you. There'll be like this whole line that you can just go down with them, and it'll open up quest options, and you can do that, or you could just fucking pull out your gun and shoot them. Not gun, but like your spell, and just kill them because this other guy says you should, right? And then there'll be these intersecting moments where the game will basically say, okay, like, you have a quest to kill this guy, right? And you've been talking him up as if you're allies, but now something more serious is going to happen. So the game will force choices, not because they'll eventually be like, oh, you're here to betray me, but because you'll have to do something to prove your loyalty, or you'll have to do something to go further. And you'll have to really make a real decision. So how about speech and pacifist options? Bro, I am doing the speech run, right? I am doing the speech run. Every single encounter you can talk your way through. The only time you can't is when the game does say in the larger meta quest sense, no, you got to choose. Like, you got to choose. You got to decide who you're going to kill. Right? Like, I don't think there is such a way. The only way that you could literally just walk through the game without killing anybody would be to just leave, which is an option. You literally can just be like, fuck this place, and leave. Right? You could just go over there. And no, of course I'm selling you on this game so hard because it is literally, I don't have stock in the company, bro. It's the greatest RPG that has ever been made. And again, I just cannot oversell this point the hardest. It's not close. Like, think of what you consider today to be the best RPG you've ever played. Like, really, really sit there and think about it and come up with an answer even. You don't need to tell me if you don't want, but, like, put it in your mind. Okay? And I can say with confidence, with confidence, Baldur's Gate 3 is better. It is not close. You are going to think very quickly, this is the greatest RPG that's ever been made. And it really boils down, I keep looping to this point, but it is absolutely the core of it. It's the linchpin of why the game is so great. It's its density. It's its density. That literally every single character you meet, like core characters, core companions, people that you will consider to be your right-hand person, you will be like, good old reliable this person, can simply not be there. And the game is just like, yeah, we've accounted for that. We understand that the person that you might believe to be in your playthrough to be absolutely core and instrumental, desperately important, you couldn't even imagine playing the game without this person there. The person right beside you is like, oh, that person, I killed them right away. They died instantly. Oh, I just hated the way they talked to me, and so I told them to leave, and they're gone. Right? Oh, that guy, oh, I fucked up some rolls, and they literally died. Yeah, they're just gone. I'm not playing with that guy. He's just gone. Straight up. Like, straight up. I think that... I'm really trying to not do any spoilers, okay? Like, I'm really, really trying to not do any spoilers. But I am going to say this, because I think it really does sell it in a way that, like, I started the game 3 times for various reasons, right? So I played the first maybe 5 hours of the game 3 times. And within just the first 5 hours of that game, there is one character that I run into that there's a character that one will run into. Well, and that's the other thing, is that it's actually possible to just not run into these people. You just miss them, right? My first playthrough, there was a character, like a main quest character, who I just missed. And I think back like, oh, like I had no reason to go back to that place. No reason to interact with this little area ever again. Did I just miss them? And they're just gone because I missed them? Yeah. They're just gone because you missed them. Bye. And then I had another run through where I just fucked up some rolls. I just rolled shitty, right? And it was like literally like a crit miss situation, classic D&D, and they just fucking died. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know if they actually died, but they fucking are gone. Main quest character, right down the line, literally. Like, same character in my current run is, like, telling me about how they need to be there to prevent the apocalypse. Like, down the line we go. Well, the first time I met them, they immediately died. Like, that's density. That's, like, a density that I have never seen in any game ever. Any game ever. It is a delivering on the promise of branching storylines in a way that I have never in my life seen even attempted. Like, it really is like these game studios, when they started to promise this idea of branching storylines, like, initially I think that the people who were selling that idea were like, yeah, that's a cool idea, right? But then when you really stop and pause and think about what it actually means to accomplish that, it means that you have to accept that players are not going to see a lot of your content. You're going to create content that most of the player base will never see. And you just need to accept that that's the case, right? But from a capitalist perspective, that's bullshit, right? No, I want everybody to see everything all the time, right? From this like narcissistic, predatory psychopath position, everything I create is a golden gem and everyone must revel in every moment. Well, Baldur's Gate 3 says, yeah, you're just not going to see that. Like, you're just not going to see that. And if you're a person who wants to play through it one time and get the Baldur's Gate experience and like put yourself in the game and like make some decisions and all that kind of stuff and get to the end and then never play the game again, you will not see a lot of the content, and I can guarantee it. I can abso-fucking-lutely guarantee it. Can absolutely fucking guarantee it. Like, the oh yeah, the replayability? Are you kidding me? Like going back to like, so you have A and B as like, so you've got Act 1, you've got A, you've got B. Well, within A, there is also subsection 1 and 2, right? Maybe even 3. And then within B, you've got subsection 1, 2, 3, right? So you can not only resolve it as A versus B, you can also resolve it A1 or A2 or A3 or B1, B2, B3. Or, crazy, you can resolve it A, but subsection B2. Like, they mix in such ways that you can decide to go along with A, but you don't like how A is acting in regards to subsection 2, so you choose subsection 2 in B in order to resolve, but you still choose A. So even though you went with B to undercut A in subsection B, you still choose A. And what this does, like what this does, is that it means that the game is intrinsically yours by definition. And that really elevates it into a place that is extremely special. Like, extremely, extremely, extremely special. That just to play Act 1, like, if I wanted to guarantee that I'm going to see all of the content and all of the connections and all of the stuff in Act 1, I actually, my brain is like saying, I think 6. I think you would have to play through it 6 times. And on purpose make decisions, I think 6. The developers claim that there are technically 17,000 different endings. Given the array and the connections that can happen. I suspect that what that is a combination of is that there's probably like there's probably like 3 endings, like 3 overarching endings. And then within those 3, there's so many variables and so many interconnected things that, like, you'll have ending 1 and all the characters can be different. Or or 2 and all the characters will be different. 3, all the characters will be different, right? And then on top of all of this, man, I cannot believe how much I'm gushing about this game right now, but it's absolutely the fucking truth, man. Like, your companions, I have played RPGs where the main quest has less content than these companions' quests have. Like, straight up. Just like, they are so well done. and like your relationship to your companions really matters, and they'll reveal things to you or they won't reveal things to you. There is straight up one character who I am just like, how does the main quest continue without this character? Like, for real, how do I even continue forward successfully? Should I just say the first time I encounter this person, nah, fuck off? I actually don't know. And even more incredibly, I can't imagine. Like, I can't imagine. Their presence in my game is literally instrumental to the core crux theory of the game. And without them, I'm just like, how does this go? No clue. So, for real, like, can you tell that right after I'm done this cast, I'm gonna go play that game? So for real, if you're even thinking about it, make sure you've got the system to run it, right? Do it. Pull the trigger. It's if you're spending money on games like Diablo 4, right? If you're spending money on literally any other game on the market today, like the only game I could see somebody making a case for would be something like Elden Ring, but even that, I'm just like not on the same level. Like, pull the trigger. Like, so I'm going to do two things. For those of you who are like, okay, John, shut up about this game, right? I'm going to do two things. I'm going to talk two more things about this game. Thing number one, the artistic value of this game, why I think it actually elevates into a place of high art, that it achieves something that other games cannot do. And then I'm going to talk about its interaction with capital, because we are still communist, right? And because of the nature of the game, it ends up being a Rorschach test. It ends up being a mirror for you to hold up against yourself. That if you go into the game and just make decisions based on what you think is right or think is correct or what you would like to see, it is going to result in something that is a reflection of your internal journey and your internal self. And this makes Baldur's Gate 3 an incredible piece of art, something unique unto itself. That absolute, like, I believe very strongly that the way you design your character and the things that you do and how you act within games actually are a reflection of your inner self. That even something as simple as, let's say, like Team Fortress or like CSGO, right? Like, straight up just like I choose a gun and shoot kind of games, right? Well, you still have to choose from like 9 classes. You still have to operate in a certain way. You still have to make a certain subset of decisions. And that says something about who you are as a person. That if you're constantly choosing the spy and you're constantly like sneaking about, turning invisible, backstabbing people, right? Being that kind of a player in that kind of a game, it intrinsically does say something, as opposed to somebody who's like a zippy scout, or just straight up the soldier, or a medic, right? A person who's just constantly like, yeah, I love being a medic. I love healing people. I love that, right? These things, it says something about who you are, and that you gravitate towards those sorts of choices and those sorts of decisions, and you find satisfaction in it, right? Like, I know for myself, I have no satisfaction whatsoever from like stealth, hiding kind of characters. It's just absolutely not. Anytime a game presents me with that option, I'm like, man, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not how I'm going to roll, right? Well, Baldur's Gate 3 takes this whole idea and elevates it into, like, you literally can be yourself in that game. Like, the character that I have created, I just created myself as an image and put it out there. and never, with one exception, with one notable exception, never have I walked away from an interaction thinking, no, I would have said this if it was an option, right? I would definitely have said this if it was an option. But for the most part, the game is always like, yeah, in the ballpark for where you for where you're going to be and what you're going to say and how you're going to act, right? And so you end up in a situation where at the end of that game, you really can look at the character, the people you've chosen to have around you, the people you have chosen to be your romantic partners, right? The people you've pursued, the objectives you've pursued, the decisions you've made, and you can reach the end of that experience and think to yourself, okay, this is the type of person I am. I make these kinds of decisions. I keep these kinds of people around. I attract this. And Baldur's Gate 3, I think, reaches that level where it becomes artistically and psychically credible to actually analyze from that perspective, in a way that most other games don't reach, right? And don't even try. So how it interacts with capital. So the reason why Baldur's Gate 3 exists as a game at all is because Dungeons and Dragons as a property has what's called an open gaming license. What that means is that since the beginning not the beginning, for the last 20 years, Dungeons and Dragons as a property has essentially allowed you to use any of its content in any game for anything you like for free. And that's been the deal. That you want to use the Dungeons and Dragons rules to create your own game, do it. You want to create a story, a movie, a film, your own personal thing, anything you like, using the Dungeons and Dragons lore and the story, done, easy. It's an open gaming license. You can use whatever you like from the Dungeons and Dragons anthology, for free, no charge, no nothing. Because the idea behind the developers was, if this becomes the standard by which people approach this game, and we create a community and a storytelling community surrounding that, then the capital benefits will come our way. That we will just become synonymous with tabletop gaming. And that's precisely what has happened. So dedicated is Dungeons and Dragons to the idea of the open gaming license that when 4th edition came out and the designers of Dungeons and Dragons made something that the community did not care for, 4th edition was a critical failure across the board. Another company popped up, Pathfinder popped up, used the Dungeons and Dragons rules and created a game set that people actually really liked. And it has now created literally created a competitor for Dungeons and Dragons because D&D failed to deliver on its core promise with 4th edition. And that forced them to move back and create 5th edition, which is the superior edition. It's just better across the board. And it's what's in play now. So Baldur's Gate 3 has come out now, and it is a massive, enormous critical success. It not only is it a massive critical success artistically, it is a massive critical financial success. The developer of the studio predicted a certain level of sales, and they have already sold 10 times that amount. That it is an overwhelming financial success for the studio. bigger than they even anticipated by a factor of 10. This has made Wizards of the Coast, which owns Dungeons and Dragons, this has made them turn around and reevaluate the open gaming license. And what they are attempting to do now is now they are putting in a stipulation that says if you make $750,000 in sales with our license, then we get a piece of it. And I think it's like 20 to 30%. It's not a small amount that they're putting in there. But that isn't actually what has people concerned. That it actually does make a kind of a sense, frankly, that if it's like, yeah, if I make something and I make $1 million with it, yeah, you can have some of that. Like, sure. Good, that makes good sense. And in my view, that incentivizes the owner of the license to allow more people to try to make $1 million, right? Yeah, you can have it for free. If you make $1 million, we get a piece of it. Okay, so more people go out, make as much content as you can, try to make $1 million. Because if you make $1 million, I get a piece of it. That makes a type of sense. That's not what's scummy. The scummy part that they're putting into the open gaming license is that Wizards of the Coast will be allowed to use any content that uses the gaming license in perpetuity. So they'll be able to republish it. They'll be able to use it in their own advertising. They'll be able to use it as if it was their own created property. And this is what has everybody losing their mind. Because this is, in a word, a violation of trust in a big and massive way. That it is a way for Wizards of the Coast to basically just pilfer other people's content and use it however they see fit, which is an enormous disincentive for people to actually use the content in the first place, but also is going to result in a lot of scummy capitalist bullshit, right? So once again, capitalism ruins everything, right? That instead of saying, oh, wow, this game that was created like 40 years ago now has been a massive success to the degree where other studios are now able to use this platform in order to, or use this system in order to make this really brilliant game, right? Instead of saying, man, well, that's amazing. Not only do they need to have a piece of it, right? They have to have the artistic rights to it, right? It's not enough to have a little bit of money. It's not enough to make passive income for nothing, right? It's not enough to make passive income for nothing. We have to have control of the art itself. Like, capitalism ruins everything. And what's the result of that going to be? It's going to mean less people using the system, less people pursuing this endeavor, less art. It means that we won't see another Baldur's Gate 3 again for a long time. That's what it means. It means that another studio is not going to go, oh, let's grab that, let's do that, let's go. Let's try to make another Baldur's Gate 3. Just capitalism stifling creativity yet again. And my favorite part is that I think part of the reason why it's happening is because all of the other gaming studios are shitting bricks because of Baldur's Gate 3. They're fucking looking at Baldur's Gate 3 and saying, oh my fucking god, is that going to become the new standard? Is that going to become the new standard? Are we not going to be able to sell a game unless it looks like that? Like, Diablo 4 had a price tag of $80. Baldur's Gate had a price tag of $80. You're trying to tell me that you're getting the same value out of fucking Diablo 4 that you're getting out of Baldur's Gate 3? I think you're fucking out of your mind. I think you're a crazy person if you're saying that. Like, I literally think that you're just, like, riding hard on Blizzard. I think that you're just, like, drinking the Kool-Aid and riding hard, ride or die with Blizzard, if that's what you're saying. Because, like, Baldur's Gate 3 for $80? Holy shit. Like, holy shit. You would spend, like, $30, $20 to $30 to go see a movie in a theater one evening. Like a 2-hour experience in a theater. And for $80, this game's going to give you like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content. Like, it's insane what you're seeing in terms of the value. And all of these video game companies, all of these capitalist dumbasses who basically want to just put their hand out and say, give us money for basically nothing. Oh, look, we made pretty lights on a screen, slapped the name Diablo on it, and did a random item generator. Money, please. Like, no. Straight up no. And if a game like Baldur's Gate 3 comes out and it gains like mainstream traction, which it looks like it is, right? The sales numbers don't lie. The game is selling. And if people play that game and then start to actually think, this is gaming now, this is what it is, no, I don't think I'm going to be spending any of my time playing any of your other dumb bullshit. And you can see it in what has happened in, you see a bunch of games suddenly on sale, right? There's a bunch of RPG-style games that are on sale now. Because they're like, hey, 70% off Elden Ring online. Come play our shitty game that we didn't put any thought into, right? Don't play Baldur's Gate 3. Come spend all your time on this piece of shit that nobody really played in the first place. That only the real Elden Ring Ride or Die guys played, right? Because it's a piece of crap and everybody knew it was a piece of crap. Yeah, suddenly Fallout Online. Oh, Fallout 76. Oh, yeah, that's super cheap now. Yeah, come spend all your time on that. Don't play Baldur's Gate 3. Spend all your money here and all your time here. Don't realize that there's a new standard of gaming that's suddenly shown up. Please don't realize that there's a new standard of gaming. Please don't make us actually commit resources. Please don't make us actually make a good product. Under no circumstances, please do not realize that we have been selling you garbage. Total dreck for a long time. Please do not realize that this is what gaming could actually look like. This is what your gaming experience could be. That you could sit down and play games like Baldur's Gate 3. That you could sit down and have a choice of games like this to play and enjoy. Do not recognize that. And especially as like AI technology comes in, especially as more immersive technologies and more immersive ways to actually engage in these games actually begins to come in. Please, please, please do not realize that instead of sitting in front of a screen where pretty lights are happening, there's actually depth and thought and development and character choices, right? Like, please don't recognize that. Oh, did I talk shit about Elden Ring? I retracted immediately. Elden Ring is a great game. Elden Ring is a masterpiece, no doubt. It's a different game. Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring are not in the same category. Like, Elden Ring is a different game. So if I talk shit about Elden Ring, I step down from that immediately, because Elden Ring stands out. It's its own. It is its own thing. Like, it's Legend of Zelda for adults. And it's, like, it is very different, though. Like, Elden Ring is a masterpiece because it's a masterpiece because it connects with exploration in a way that a lot of other games don't. It also honestly, the thing that makes Elden Ring a step above other games in its category is that it really does look at you and say, you can just not finish this. You can just put the controller down and walk away now. Like, no, there's no easy mode. There's no way through this. You go look at your guides. Go online. Watch some videos. You dig deep. You figure it out. You find out what you need to do. But at the end of the day, it's you with a controller looking at this game. And if you can't finish it, it's over for you. You cannot proceed. And that takes a lot of balls. Elder Scrolls. That's right. Silverlight's correcting me, and that's correct. I did not mean Elden Ring. I meant Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls Online. Piece of crap. Elder Scrolls Online was a piece of crap. Thank you. That's correct. But that's what made me really admire Elden Ring, and most of the FromSoft games. It's just straight up. They're just like, yeah, it's hard. And it's just like you can't fuck around with that, you know. And what I really value about that game too is like usually when games are hard, right? Usually when games are considered like hard, it's because there's a fussiness, or there's you gotta move here, then here, then here, then here, then here. And there's like a twitch kind of quickness. There's like kind of thing to it, and the hardness is usually just like shoved right in your face. It really is just like a Super Meat Boy kind of just like, oh, and you just gotta grind your face into it and just die over and over and over and over and over and over again. But because Elden Ring is set in this absolutely magical world, just this absolute breathtaking world that is so obviously created with care and delicacy, delicateness, not delicacy, delicateness, that they really have just like placed things and done things. Like I've read stuff on about Elden Ring where people are like, oh, I was walking through this room and I saw this mural that's painted on the side of this wall. And this mural is actually of these characters. And this character is interacting with this character in this moment. Does that mean... And you see people actually piecing together lore based on things that have been obviously placed with the intention to build that lore. The storytelling of Elden Ring is very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful. They're not like putting it in front of your face. They're not telling you what it is. Like, I've definitely seen people who went through Elden Ring and were like, what was the story of that game even? I don't even know. Because they don't, like, smack you in the face with it. There's, like, one guy who's willing to tell you what the story is because he's reading it himself from histories. But outside of that, it's just kind of you figuring it out. And because the game is so open and is so willing to, like, allow you to explore it, that when you finally get into these fights, you really, really want to win. Because you know that behind this barrier is something just as magical, something just as interesting, something just as wondrous as everything you've seen before it. And so that means that the difficulty of the fight and you trying to get through the fight has actual real stakes. That the game and the game does say it to you. I admire this so much about that development studio. Like every other game on the market right now, if you're struggling to get through something, it'll look at you and be like, would you like easy mode? You could just get through this, you know. You could just pass this. Just get by it. There's so much more content to see. You're obviously stuck on this. Just put it on easy mode. Let's get through it. Right? Elden Ring is like, nah, brah. Ride or die. You just suck. Get good. And that's it. That's it. I admire that so much about that game. And was there ever... Dude, the first character I made in Elden Ring. The first character I made in Elden Ring was a wizard. because I wanted to see what their magic system was like. I like magic and I like wizards. My character in Baldur's Gate 3 is a wizard. And I went through the entire game as a wizard, made it to the end boss, realized in the second phase of the boss fight that my character was not strong enough to win this fight, that I would have to go and continue grinding and find new spells and actually level up in order to actually win this fight, or I would really, really, really have to hard dedicate to like memorizing and mastering the fight in a way that I was just like, so either way, I was looking at go grind and level up and find new shit and spend hours more in that direction, or spend hours, possibly days more, mastering this fight to win this as this character in this moment. And the trouble is that I was not liking the character. I wanted it to be over because I wanted to play through the game again as a different character already. And I didn't enjoy him, and I was just like pushing myself through to try and get to the end. And I just decided, you know what, fuck it. And I remade the character. I started from the beginning, and I built the character that I wanted to build, and I went through all the way to the end and won. I played the game twice before I beat it. And that's what I think that is what I had to do. That I had to act to get good, to actually beat that game, I had to play it twice. It's like the longest road possible, right? Which funnily enough, when I go into like the artistic side of things and like think about the reflection and think about all that kind of stuff, that is exactly who I am. It is always the long road with me. Every time. There's no such thing as a shortcut. There's no such thing as there's no such thing as just taking the easy way, right? I have to look at the road less taken, and I have to walk that road. I have to, because that's who I am. I think. I just think that it's. I don't think I have the right to talk about things if all I do is say yes, sir. I don't think I have the right to speak about a person's journey if I don't know what the back end looks like, if I don't know what the road less taken looks like, if I don't actually try to take a moment to walk in a person's shoes. And I think that sometimes you have to literally do that. Like, you literally have to do that sometimes. And moreover, if you're unwilling to do it, then you need to shut up. And you just need to listen to what they say. To me, I think that's the truth. And I think it goes in all ways. If you are unwilling to become Arnold Schwarzenegger and to walk the road that Arnold Schwarzenegger walked, then when Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, you shut up and you listen. And you don't have an opinion. And if you are looking at a homeless person who's going through homelessness and he talks to you about homeless stuff, well, then you shut your mouth and listen. Because he's the expert, isn't he? Out of curiosity, why didn't you simply respec your character? Because fuck you, that's why, Eric. because that felt cheap. It felt cheap. It felt cheap to do that. I feel like that would disrespect, like, leaving that character, abandoning that character felt right. It felt right to say to him, you are not good enough. You are not good enough, and I'm not going to continue with you. The new character I made, I had to respec him at the end, because I went into a build that the end boss ended up being immune to. That it was very successful on the way up, but then when I got to the end, it was like, oh, this guy's immune to this. So I had to respec, but that respec felt correct, because it felt like something my character would actually do. right? That he would be like, oh shit, you're immune to that? Fuck that. We're gonna spec into this instead. But while maintaining the integrity of the character, that he still used the same items and he still used the same strategies and the same ideas. He was just built in a way to augment his own abilities. That like just respecking my character in order to grab whatever was lying around in order to kind of hit the bell felt wrong. That character's story was, you made it here, but you weren't good enough. Too bad. Bye. The story of the new guy was, you made it here, you realized you needed to change, you changed, and you did it. And I believed that he could. And that, to me, it... Look, I'm a weird guy, okay? Like, I'm a weird guy. I believe in the integrity of the character. I believe in the integrity of the story and the integrity of the journey. My background is theater. My background is theater. I believe that every single character and every single game that you're playing has a story. It's what I believe about people. That every person is a story, by definition. And that I genuinely believe, I've said this before, but I think it's worth reiterating, right? Because I really do believe it. That if you were to see a person's life story laid out in front of you as if it was a movie, and you watched that movie, you would walk away being in love with that person. If not in love, because perhaps they did some things that were reprehensible, perhaps they are reprehensible, you would at least respect them. That you would at least see and understand the nature of why they are the way they are. And in that way come to respect the force of nature itself. Like, perhaps the person was just born a psycho. Well, can you actually blame them for that? You can be afraid of them. You can respect them. But I generally believe, across the board, for most people, that you would come to love them. That you would watch their life story, you would see them strive, you would see them struggle, you would see them fail, you would see them regain their footing, or perhaps not regain their footing, and you would see them soldier on. And by the time the credits rolled, and the only time the credits would roll on a life story of a person, it would be the moment that they died, you would walk away believing, or you would walk away being in love with that person. And the trouble, of course, with this idea is that for some people, in order to tell their life story in a way that it would be comprehensible and understandable for a person, it would take a lifetime, literally. You would have to see their whole life in order to achieve this effect. And so my theory of interacting with people is to just skip to the love. That if you saw their story in a way that you understood it, you would love them. So just skip to the love. Just love them. And because everybody does have something to love. Not everybody is for you to love, and not everybody is going to love you, obviously. But we can still interact with one another this way. We can still interact with one another from a place of love and from a place of attempting to find love with one another. Because each of us is a story unto ourselves. We all are randomly generated. We all begin our journey in a place that is not of our choosing. It's barely of our parents' choosing. And we show up in whatever circumstances are around us, dealing with whatever circumstances are there, whoever is there, and whatever their goals and intentions are of us. We're literally helpless for years of our life. Like, this is what kills me the most about these hyper individualists, these outright lunatics. The first 8 years, right, of your life, you are helpless. You're helpless. That you genuinely need someone to feed you. You need someone to change your diaper. Like, the idea that you are where you are because you're a big, strong, competent man is the most dim-witted perspective of humanity a person can take. There are so many things that show you that is not the case. Your helplessness in your youth is one of them. The fact that you are randomly generated, that you don't have mental illnesses or you don't have physical deformities, the fact that you are as you are, where you are. These things matter so much more than your personal decisions. And that's not to say that your personal decisions don't matter, but if you are trying to sit there and convince me that your personal decisions are the factor, that it is number one in the priority list, well above all others, then I think that you're a goddamn fool. I don't even think it cracks the top 10. It might not even crack the top 100. There are so many things that go into making you. And your decision about what happens in the given moment that you are presented with, it might matter to the degree that it does, but the very fact that behind that choice, there's an infinite array of choices that were made that had literally nothing to do with you. So the fact that the choice is even in front of you in the first place is something that you had nothing to do with. And if it ends up being a positive result, you think, for your life, then you should consider that to be nothing short of a blessing and a miracle for you. And if you're going to stand around and say, I'm where I am because I'm a big, strong man who makes good decisions, then you're just an arrogant prick who should not be taken seriously. The trouble is that the arrogant pricks have gathered together en masse. We are who we are because we're super smart. We're the super smartest. Kalimasu, I can't pronounce this, my man. Call me Sinu, I think is what it is. Well, Sinu, the only job you are suitable for is to become the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Canada. I don't know if that's an insult or not, man. Man, you give off a Bolshevik vibe. My name is the Canadian Commie. My symbol is a maple leaf with the communist symbol. And then Call Me Sinu says, I still need someone to help me with my breakfast, to be honest. Yeah, fair enough, my man. I understand. We all have our struggles, right? I did my dishes the other day, and I felt really good about myself. I got to tell you. I felt real good about myself. But guys, my man, I am... Oh, well, thank you, Sinu, then. I'll take it as a compliment. No, that's not an insult, says Sinu. Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, my man. I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. We got another... Guys, look at this. The system works. The system works. We've got another communist. Another dirty commie. You tanky? You fucking piece of shit. Leftist infighting. Leftist infighting. Yeah. I am this close. I am this close to being able to do a full chin-up from full extension. Like, not a bullshit chin-up, like start here, pull up. Like, straight up, full extension, pull all the way up, chin up, back down. I'm here. I'm right here. And I know, like, the day that it happens, the day where I finally go and get it up to the last thing, like, I might as well just kill myself, right? Like, that's it. It's over. I did it. Like, what else can there be? What else of value is there in this place? No. In seriousness, I'm going to feel so good about myself when I do that. That's going to feel so good. I'm going to be like full-blown championship mode. The world will be a sunshiny ray of beautiful... I will feel, and I know it, I'm going to feel as though I am unstoppable. Like Elden Ring boss defeated. End game achieved. Right? New game plus. Let's go. Thank you, Compton. Thank you, bud. I feel it. I do. I feel it, my man. I believe in myself. I used to be able to do something like 22 chin-ups. Fuck you. Like clean? Like full extension, clean 22? Leon, you're not blowing smoke up my ass right now, my man? Because 22, I can't even imagine that, my man. 22? Bro. That's crazy. I'll be happy with just the one. I gotta tell you. Bro. That's like military level. Like, that's like literally like Marines. You could like be a Marine. Are you a Marine? Are you a spook, Leon? Are you a spook? Sinu says, I think you are lucky. You are a communist in a democratic bourgeois country, and I'm a communist in a reactionary country with a religious totalitarian government. Like, why should I even fight with that thing? It's the 21st century. I know, right? Dude, what is happening in America? I assume that you're talking about America, and I assume you're talking about the Republican Party, man. Like, if you're not, please correct me. But still, what is happening is, it's like we're reverting to like the 14th century or something. It's like we're going, not even the 14th century. It's like the 10th century. Fuck, it might even be like the 9th or the 8th century. It's like fucking crazy what's happening right now. It's insane watching this, yeah, it's the Dark Ages, man. It's the Dark Ages. We're going into a dark age, which is so wild to think about considering the technology we have, right? Like, consider the technology we have. Consider, like, the level of and consider the stuff that we know. Consider even the social advances that we have witnessed as a people. Like, we've seen them. And we just can't even, like, if you are living in America, you are living in a country that literally watched the entire rest of the world create universal healthcare systems and then just not do it. Just not do it. Oh my God, dude. Are you in Iran? Holy shit, dude. Yeah. No, you're in fucking Iran, man. My man. That's wild, dude. That's what Iran, like, congratulations for not collapsing into war. Like, you got that going for you, my man. Like, the American, like, bro, like, oh my God, dude. Oh my God, dude. The last 20 years of Iranian history has got to be completely and totally shitting your pants all the fucking time. Like, it has to be normal to you, right? It has to be so normal how fucking terrified everyone is all the time, right? That level of heightened terror has got to be just so normal. Your neighbor was invaded and dismantled. Like, you can literally walk up to your border and look at it. It's right. If you had a telescope, you could watch it happen in real time. Where and then the other neighbor also got fucking invaded at the same time. So you guys are just like, oh my God, it's happening right around you all the fucking time for like 20 years straight. Here's my take. I hope you don't get offended by me saying this, okay? Here's my take on Iran. Straight up. Then Syria. That your region got put into complete and total war. That America came and blew up everything, started stealing oil and just destroying the shit out of everything all the time. And I'm fucking sorry. Holy shit, am I sorry. And it's pretty clear that when that shit starts going down, the people who you want to be in charge are the most militant and the most dedicated to keeping your culture alive. That means that you need the fucking far-right theocrats in power. That it just means that you need to be that. Your country needs to be run in this moment, no doubt, by the people who are the most willing to pull the trigger and the people who are going to clutch onto your faith and your religion and your culture the hardest. And it looks like you guys did it. That's exactly what you guys did. You guys were like, well, far-right theocrats, they're leading the country. And I imagine there's a lot of decisions that you guys are probably like, fuck that. That seems like bullshit. We don't care for that very much. But at the same time, your country didn't collapse. Like, I gotta tell you, man, I'm very, very impressed with Iran for this reason. Iranians get like a crazy badge of respect from me. How are you still alive? How are you still around? How are you still secure? How are you still stable? How? It's madness. Oh my God, dude. In the recent protests, more than 500 people were killed with bullets and various blows. 500 people? Fuck me. Fuck me, man. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? If I was in a protest and 500 people died in that protest, Jesus Christ, man. This chat just got real, man. This is the real chat. We're talking to somebody who's going through some real shit. Holy fuck. Like, 70 people under 18 years old. Like, this is war, man. Holy crap. I don't even understand. Yeah, you wake up and see Americans have killed an Iranian general. Yeah, I remember this. And the regime is threatening America and Israel on TV. Get ready, guys, because ISIS is coming to the border of your country. Yeah, and so on. And then just this emoji, just the gripping the forehead emoji. Like, has the withdrawal or the declaration of the withdrawal of America from Afghanistan affected your perception of what is happening in that region? Do you think things are calming down at all in the region since Biden withdrew troops from Afghanistan, or are things more or less kind of the same, do you think? And it's so difficult for us to get good information about Iran and about the Middle East generally, because we're so bombarded with bullshit here. Like, everything is just like propaganda constantly all the time. And honestly, since the withdrawal, news from the region has been scarce. It has not captured the attention of the people very, very often. And like, I know that in Afghanistan there is the threat of there was a threat of a famine because of the withdrawal that the Taliban took over right away. Oh my God, yeah. Has the takeover of Taliban of Afghanistan come into any ridiculous bullshit? Has that related into anything? Or is it simply just the case that Iranians generally just need to hunker down and care about Iran. Like, I'm asking a lot of questions about, like, well, this happened in Afghanistan. Has that had any effect or any kind of stuff? Or is it literally just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm dealing with this, hard right theocratic group of, like, fucking nut jobs. Like, let's call it as it is. Like, fucking nut jobs, man. Like, some of the shit that these guys say and some of the shit that these guys believe is nuts. Like, it's fucking nuts. And they're the ones running your country and making laws and shit. I'm so, like, I know I'm just asking a lot of questions, but boy, what a total fucking shit show we have delivered to your doorstep. For fucking, like, for what? Like, for what? Like, for real? Like, what do we get out of it even? Oh. Bless you for even answering, Sinu. I appreciate it, my man. When you occupy a country for 20 years, you cannot get up and go back whenever you want. Yeah, no shit, man. The occupying forces are responsible for the lives of the citizens of the occupied country. But America, Biden, withdrew the troops without planning, and now we are here with a handful of slippers and beards in Afghanistan who have taken over the government. Do you know their rules? I mean, my assumption of the Taliban is that they're very much like far-right militants. They're far-right theocratic militants, right? Like, this is one of the truisms of humanity, it seems to me, is that when shit really starts to go bad and, like, the fighting really starts, the people who take power are the far-right theocrats, and that's just what happens. That and the theocracy is not always established religion. Sometimes it's just money, right? But I consider that to still be a theocracy of its own. So but it's always people who are, like, about, like, racial purity or ethnic purity. It's always people who are just the most willing to pull the trigger. It's always the case, and the Taliban is like that for sure, right? The Taliban is the group that's willing to go around and pull the trigger for the fucking glory of Allah, and well, they'll say the glory of Allah, right? Yeah, Sinu writes, education of girls and women is generally prohibited. Yeah, classic. Any kind of music, really? Any kind of music, internet, women leaving the house, Western clothes, sports and video games are all prohibited. Yeah, though that kind of thing is for sure the culture basically, like, if you read, like, religious texts and you read a thing like they went through and smashed all the idols, right? They went through and, like, cleansed the culture. That's what that is. It's just basically saying, yeah, all that Western stuff, all that stuff that America brought over, we're done with that. That's gone. Oh, geez. Executions are carried out with machine guns in the middle of football and rugby stadiums. Straight up back to medieval times, man. Medieval times with assault rifles, right? Just like high technology, straight up like 8th century. Yeah. Jeez, the fucking wheeze, man. Like, it is going to take... It's going to be like generations, eh? Like, it's going to be like the Taliban is going to be in control of Afghanistan for an entire generation. For sure. Men were required to grow beards to a specific length, and those who did not comply could face punishment. Yeah, and then he writes, this is not my comment, this is Sinu's comment. You'd be fine in Afghanistan, I think. Well, thank you for that. Goodness. I would feel bad for the gentleman who couldn't grow a beard. Those gentlemen exist. I know. I'm working with one of those right now. He just cannot grow a beard. It's just not in his... I feel really terrible for him. Walking around probably with a scraggly piece of shit beard. Requiring people to grow a beard is a weird one, eh? Like, that's a weird one. Like, there's a type of logic to most of the other stuff, right? Cultural cleansing makes a lot of sense from a, like, we got to get rid of this Western culture. We got to get rid of all this, right? Like, I hate to say it out loud, but it is true. Like, executions, especially in wartime, right? It makes a type of sense. But just like growing a beard, what's the fucking point of that? Like, what's the point of having a big long beard? Jesus, that doesn't make any goddamn sense at all to me. Yeah, Tinker, you seem to be struggling with the comments, my man. I don't know. It's all. Oh, Adam's throwing shade at you, my man. Sinu. We got a guy in my chat in YouTube. I think you can see him on the screen. He says, "Source, please. Welcome to Communism Town. First sources I see when I Google 500 people died in Iran protest is Radio Free Europe. Uh-oh. And second is Voice of America. Ruh-roh. This quote-unquote Iranian is likely CSIS." Adam sharp as ever, keeping us true and honest. Yeah, we don't know who you are, Sinu. Right? You could be the CIA for all you know. For all we know. You could just be trying to funnel bad information and have me repeat it as if it's fact. Huh? I mean, it's funny because it is actually true. Like, you could be. I don't know. Right? I think it would be fair to say, though, Adam, let's not worry too much about it, that there was violence at the protest. Right? Meanwhile, me trying to use a VPN because Twitch is banned in Iran. Yeah. Yeah, the coup in Pakistan orchestrated by the West. Yeah, no shit. Ligand Disease says, my Asian ass can only get Ho Chi Minh's goatee at best. You'd look good with a Ho Chi Minh goatee, my man. I think you would. Straight up. You should commit. You're a younger man, though, so maybe not. But as you get older, I bet you could really pull that shit off. I wonder what my CSIS file says. Yeah, no shit, yeah. Like, at this point, guys, like, it's all automated, eh? It's all just like robots. Like, everybody's got a file now, right? Everybody's got a file now. That's the thing, is that because they've automated everything, like, if you connect to the internet at all, like, not even if you connect to the internet, like, if you have anything, if you've got a bank account, we've all got files, right? We've all got files, and we've all like probably pinged the system, like, somehow, right? The security system and the security networks that exist in our country have probably pinged all of us for all kinds of things. Every single one of you dumbasses, because you're talking to me probably, and I run a communist. And guess what? I know for a fact that they have automated the word communism. I know for a fact that they can find that symbol on TikTok, which is easily the most aggressive of the social media platforms that I've found in this way, probably because it's run by NATO operatives. Easily the most aggressive. They actually purged. I was using this picture on TikTok, and they purged it. They took the picture down. I couldn't use that picture, and now I've tried to remake my account, but I've only tried to remake it as the Canadian commie or the Canadian communist, and they won't let me use the word communist. I think that's why I can't remake it. I haven't tried to remake it without using the word communist. So after this, I should try to remake and see if I can remake it without the word, without commie or commie. I'll just use my name, right? John Sanderson. And that'll be it. Right? Sinu writes, I know Iran's political situation is shit, but we have really, really delicious foods you should try. Yeah, I'm sure you do. Kubide kebab is the best one. The CIA agent who diverts the discussion from a political decision to a decision about kebab. Dude, you don't need to be part of the CIA to do that. I'm fine with that. I literally just spent a half hour talking about Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah. Nothing to be scared of. Most of us don't have anything to lose. You have nothing to lose but your chains. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Yeah, this is what I told the psychiatrist, and they call me paranoid. Yeah, well, that's their job. Their job is to give you some kind of mental illness so you'll keep coming in to see them. Like, that's their job. Man, that's probably the most cynical thing I've ever said. Like, therapists, if therapists actually cured their patients, they wouldn't have employment, right? Like, it's part of the reason why I think privatized healthcare systems fundamentally don't work, is that doctors are financially incentivized to not cure their patients. Because cured patients don't pay. They need sick patients. And so unless the system is actually nationalized and made a single payer system to at least make it so it's not beneficial to keep people sick, then doctors might actually be interested in making people not sick. Grinning, the value of the patriarchy may have developed in response to women being forced into sex work. It's a solution that creates new problems. Yeah. Subscribe maybe says, maybe, good to see you by the way, bud. You too, Grinning. Maybe put a hammer and sickle instead? No, they don't let it. They just don't let it. They just purge it. My credit card companies have more to lose from me than I do. Amazing. Canadian fellow traveler. I don't think that would fit. I'll probably just use my name, honestly. Just J.M. Sanderson, probably. I'm sort of like, I'm really like, TikTok, like looking back on the time that I was trying to use TikTok, it was really exhausting. It was annoying. It was really annoying, honestly. Like reflecting on TikTok. And anytime I've kind of gone back and looked at TikTok again, I've been like, fuck, man, this is annoying. Like, it's just like, it's just trash. It's just like a screaming trash machine that just spews trash in your face. It's just like trash. Ugh. Carl says, you're right, though. Therapists just serve capital by helping you adapt to its evil and be productive in spite of the abuse you endure. I mean, I think that is, like, that doesn't make therapy bad, I think is what I'm trying to say with that. Like, that just because it's helping you cope doesn't make it intrinsically bad. That I think it would be effective if a therapist was like, yeah, we live in a shithole system of capital, right? Like, we got to deal with this. And we do. We got to deal with it, right? That I would only think a therapist was scummy if they went down the Peterson route, right? Which is to deny that capitalism is a problem, right? To say that, like, no, the hierarchy is a natural phenomenon that you just need to exist in and accept, and you can't blah, 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 blah. Like, that makes you a scumbag. If you were a therapist saying, like, okay, look, the system of capital exists, it's obvious, it's right in front of you, it's right there, great. What are you going to do about it? Right? Like, to me, like, the fundamental complaint about the conservative right, about the victimhood culture, as they would call it, right? The victimhood culture. Like, it is possible to be rendered inert, to be rendered, put into stasis. I know I have experienced it myself. It is possible to be put into stasis because you are dealing with the looming reality of existing within a structure of capital, for sure. Like, I have fallen into depression. I have spent my time existing in that way, right? And there does come a moment, and it is actually true, where you do have to just deal with it. Like, you do. The capitalists will say, and the conservatives will say, that the way to deal with it is to commit harder to the hierarchy, right? Make yourself more valuable to the hierarchy, what they might call the society, right? To be useful to your owners, right? And you can do that if you like, right? And I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with that. It's your life, right? You can do what you like with your life, and no one can say anything about it because you're the expert of your own life, right? That you put it in, you get it out, all that kind of stuff. It's just you don't always get out what you think you should, right? But at the end of the day, you do have to deal with it. And so if I was going to a therapist, or if I was a therapist, and I was listening to somebody be like, fuck this system of capital, fucking capitalism, right? I'd be like, yeah. Like, yeah. Like, the system of capital, it's a wage slave system, it's total bullshit. What are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to do about it? Because at the end of the day, it's you that needs to deal with yourself. Isn't that the shittiest part? Isn't that the shittiest part? That the hardest thing for a person to do is deal with themselves. And even worse, nobody can do it for you. Nobody can do it for you. It's just you, and you've got to deal with yourself. And nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. That what you do is for you. And if you do find somebody who cares, that person's a real treasure. A true and real treasure. A true and real treasure. And that you might actually do stuff for each other to help one another. A true and rare treasure, if there ever was one. But what you do for yourself. Because dealing with yourself is the hardest thing that you can do. It's the most difficult thing that a person can do. I know for myself, I've recently been here. I'll get a little bit personal. I was recently challenged by a family member to consider pursuing becoming a teacher. And I thought to myself, for a moment, yeah, why not? Right? I'm already doing a capitalist job. I could go back to school for a year, maybe two, get a degree in education, and then I could be a teacher. And then that would be a decent paying job. And I would get a pension when I was old. Right? But then I sat down and really thought about it. And I dealt with myself. I didn't let somebody else make a decision for me. And I didn't make the decision based on what they would think of me. And I know that they're going to be disappointed and want a justification for my decision. And I know that I can't give them one because I know that my justification would actually break their heart and demoralize their journey. And I don't care to do that. But I can tell you guys, I don't believe in our system of education. I think that we are indoctrinating kids into a capitalist system that rewards obedience exclusively. That to be successful in our what we call our education system, all you have to do is say yes, sir, and then do what you're told. And then once you do what you're told, as long as you do what you're told to a certain degree of competency, you'll at least make it through. And if you do what you're told really, really well, or in a way that really inspires the teacher, i.e. they hear from you what they want to hear, really, then you'll get the good grades. And then, of course, you get the good grades. That means that you get to go to the good college, and then if you, or the good school, and then you continue doing what you're told, and you continue being obedient, and that gets you the better grades, and then you get the good job. And then when you're told, okay, lay 10,000 people off, you'll say yes, sir, because that's all you've ever done. And you'll create some kind of justification for yourself. Oh, they'll just get better jobs, or they'll just go, it's okay, right? And if at any point along that journey you actually say, as I did when I was like in grade 9, wait, this whole fucking thing is stupid as shit. This is dumb. We're not learning anything. Like, we're not learning a goddamn thing. I'm sure that you heard this in school at some point. Some kid probably said at some point, and it might have been you that said it. Some kid might have said, what use is this going to be when I graduate? When I get out of here, what value is this going to have? Right? And the answer you got was probably some circuitous bullshit nonsense thing. Or maybe it was something like, well, what we're doing here is we're teaching you how to think. And so we're giving you problems to teach you how to think. Which is a nice little code for them to say, we're teaching you how to be obedient. Do the task that's set out in front of you. Don't complain about it. Don't question why it is that we're doing the task. Because we're teaching you a method and how to think about things, how to be obedient, how to do the task efficiently and properly in a time scale, and then be graded on it and accept that. Accept being graded, by the way. Accept that in the first place. And I just know for a fact that I will be going through that curriculum and I will see something that I know is false or at least debatable. And I won't want to relay that. I won't be interested in that. Because who's making this curriculum? Oh, it's the capital owners. And then on top of all that, I hated school. I hated it. I was so glad to be out of it. I was so glad to be out of it, man. Like, I hated school. I thought that school was just like literally grade 12, I consider to be an utter waste of everyone's time. Like, a complete and total waste of people's time. I think my greatest accomplishment was not showing up half the time. And the time that I did show up, I slept through class. I'm happy about that. That to me is a major accomplishment that I wish we all would achieve. Fucking abandon these stupid classes and this stupid bullshit thing we're doing. It's not teaching you anything. You get no skills. It's completely valueless, and it's a waste of your youth. It's an utter waste of your youth. You would have been better off running around naked in a field. You would have been better off swimming in a lake. You would have been better off literally sitting in an empty room staring at the wall than going through fucking grade 12. Without a doubt. What we consider a quote-unquote education is nothing short of just an utter waste of everybody's time. And it seems to me to be designed that way. And then there comes the recognition. So let's say even all of that. Okay, I bite the bullet. Great. Go and do it. Because, more money, more of the dollars, more of the money dollars. Oh, hey, that pension, right? It means that I would have to stop doing this. Like, I wouldn't have time for this. For sure. Right? Like, I have purposefully sacrificed things and I have purposely made room for this. On purpose. And it's working. Like, is it giving me all the money in the world? Can I buy a house? No. But it's not giving me nothing from the financial standpoint, and I haven't been doing it for that long. So I'm getting something, right? Certainly enough to make me go, oh, okay. And if I think about it as if it is a business, I go, well, first year business owners don't really make money in the first year, right? Maybe by year 5, I would be thinking, like, if I was in the same financial position now as if I was in the same financial position 5 years from now as I am now, maybe I would be thinking differently. But I don't think I will be. I think that this channel can grow. I think it will grow. I think that the people who are here are dedicated to it. I see the same faces over and over again, the same people over and over again. I think even the people who disagree with me are intrigued by me because I give them a perspective they don't hear. My perspective is unique. There's often a third way that I can present to them that is intriguing. And it's just about convincing people to actually talk about me. That whenever I go into like Reddit or these sorts of places, and I see people talking about commenters they like, I'm like, I am not on that list, and I should be. I should be on that list. And I know I should be on that list. Because I know my perspective is better than some of those people. Or at least as good. At least as deserving to be there. And I believe that it will be. I believe it will be. Mikhail, you can join the Discord if you donate $1 to my Patreon. That's the way it works. I don't want to let just anybody in. And I don't have a lot of barriers. Right? I don't have a lot of barriers. And that's one that I don't let people cross. That's one I don't let people cross. And so teach math or physics or chemistry maybe. Well, you think I'm interested in math or physics or chemistry? It's humanities all the way, baby. I have a degree in theater. You think they're going to let the theater guy teach chemistry? Look, at the end of the day, I think about my life's trajectory. I think about where I am, who I am, what I want to do, what I would like to accomplish, and what I am willing to sacrifice to accomplish it. And I did not pursue the humanities. I did not pursue theater. I did not pursue this wandering journey. I did not pursue this to just kind of shrug right when it's starting to work, right when it's actually starting to gain traction, right when I'm starting to find something that's actually happening, so that I can go do something I don't give a shit about, because I'm scared that when I'm old, I won't have enough money to live. Well, I'm not scared of that. Because I've always known this. Because I'm not afraid of death. That for me, death is going to be a phenomenal relief. I'm kind of looking forward to it, honestly. This place is not that nice. There's some cool stuff going on, for sure. There's some worthwhile stuff, for sure. Right? But it's not worth dedicating my whole fucking life to. That my life is mine. It was a gift to me from the universe. And I'm going to enjoy that gift for myself. Here's the thing, Ligand Z. we have to cease thinking of death as bleak. Death is inevitable. Death comes for all of us. Death happens to all of us. Death occurs. We are temporary. We are temporal creatures that spend a fraction of a blink of an eye, not even one full blink of one eye, in this plane of reality. We are one note in an orchestra. We are a moment that fleets by in a flick. We are here randomly. We die randomly. And we shouldn't be afraid of it. We shouldn't be scared of it. We shouldn't loathe it, resent it. We shouldn't fear it or feel it looming over us. It exists. We know it, obviously. But it's where we came from. Mark Twain has a beautiful quote. I didn't much mind it when I wasn't here. I don't think I'll much mind it when I'm gone. And that the time we have here is ours to do with what we see fit. And I don't see an iota of value in committing even one moment of time to sustaining this worthless culture. That my position and my opinion is that this fucking thing's gotta go. And I'm gonna spend as much time as I can not participating in it. And when I do participate in it, it'll be to throw fucking rocks at it. To try to bring this fucker down. Because if there is value to be had in this reality, if there is a meaning to any of this, it certainly rests in the idea of making things better for the next generation. Making things better for the next generation. If there is any meaning to be had, it is to play the note you are and play it well, so that the following note can sing just as loud. Well, we are not doing that, pretty obviously. And so I refuse to participate. I refuse to hold this note that they want me to hold. Get fucked. Get completely fucked. I will become the Rush Limbaugh of the left. That's the goal. That's the trajectory. That's the aim. And if it means that when I'm old, I don't have enough money to live because the society has configured it in such a way so as to abandon me, then I'll just go home. I'll just return from whence I came. And I'll probably be happier for it. Little tip of the hat, little nod, and out the door I'll go. Just like everyone else. And I'm not going to do it sniveling like a little bitch and being scared of it. Not interested. I don't think we were created for a reason, but I do think that we were created. And if we get to the end and find out that our creator is a nightmare psycho, well, nothing much to be done about it. No sense being afraid of it. But I don't think it is. I think it's just as confused as we are. I don't think it knows what's going on either. And that it's also trying to figure it out. And we can help it. We can help it figure it out. By focusing on the things it needs to continue perpetuating itself. And communicating about itself to itself. Food and shelter should be free. Every single one of us is deserving of the moment that we have to give voice to this reality as we are each the voice of our Creator. And that as an individual, we are but a sad and sorry note. But as a group, we make a choir. Well, guys, I think I'm going to end it there. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles. Patreon, the money. Tell people I exist. Let a friend know. Let somebody know. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.